Chapter 33-39. Half 8 star. Looks like someone can't take it anymore. It should be long one. What do you mean it should be long one? It must be long one. I don't know what kind of dog's at luck that long one has. He actually lasted until now in the second stage. But now his luck has run out. Compared to Wu Xingyuan, he is still far from it. That's true. After all, Wu Xingyuan is the most dazzling genius of the Sorcerer clan and the true representative of the younger generation of the prehistoric heavenly region. He is invincible. In the deep pit, the moment the muffled groan sounded out, the surrounding people began to chatter. Immediately after, a miserable figure flew out of the deep pit. Longwen can't take it anymore. The Moon Wolf clan patriarch, Itaiha, shook his head. This little bastard must have a lot of secrets. We can't let him go. To be able to withstand the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statue until now, we can't let him go. The Corpse Ghost clan patriarch, Shi Yingzhuang, said hatefully in his heart. Wu Wuxian's gaze also landed on the faintly discernible figure. Like everyone else, she also believed that the figure was Zhuowen. She was very confident in Wu Xingyuan. No matter what stage, Wu Xingyuan had to be first, and could only be first. This came from the pride of the Sorcerer clan, and also her confidence in Wu Xingyuan's talent and strength. At this moment, all the gazes in the surroundings were fixed on the wretched figure. Their thoughts were surprisingly the same. They all thought that this figure must be Longwen and could not be Wu Xingyuan. Bang! After the miserable figure flew out of the deep pit, he twisted his waist, flipped in the air, and landed lightly on the ground. However, this figure was clearly exhausted. He knelt on one knee and spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. When all eyes finally gathered on this figure, the owners of these gazes were stunned. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. Even someone as steady as Wu Wuxian staggered, a clear indication of the turmoil in her heart. What's going on? Shouldn't the one who came out be Longwen? How could it be Wu Xingyuan? Are you seeing things? Did you mistake Longwen for Wu Xingyuan? All the alien races recognized that this figure was not the Longwen they were expecting, but the number one genius of the Sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. An uproar erupted in the surrounding area. Many of the non-human beings were in disbelief at this result. Wu Xingyuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and slowly stood up. He stared at the deep pit in front of him for a long time before finally turning around and walking to Wu Wuxian's side without a word. Nephew Wu, did Longwen die because he couldn't withstand the pressure inside? The Moon Wolf clan's patriarch, Itaihe, couldn't recognize Longwen, so he stepped forward and asked, "He must have died in there. Brother E, you can't be thinking that the ant from that small clan have the ability to hold on in there until now, right? What a joke." Corpse Marsh sneered. Shifu coldly snorted and glanced at the deep pit in the distance. He firmly believed in Corpse Marsh's judgment. Such a death was letting Longwen off too lightly. Wu Wuxian looked at Wu Xingyuan, puzzled. She wanted to verify Itaiha's words with Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan's face didn't look good. He didn't want to explain, but Wu Wuxian was also curious, so he had to speak. Longwen didn't die. He's still in the deep pit. I lost to him in the second stage. After Wu Xingyuan finished his sentence, he shut his mouth and his expression was cold. However, this sentence was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples and spread among the non-human beings. Wu Xingyuan actually admitted defeat. This was too unbelievable. However, his strength isn't strong. If it's a one-on-one fight, I can defeat him in one move. The surrounding cheers were too loud. Wu Xingyuan couldn't bear to listen any longer. He explained that Long Wenyuan wasn't his match. The second stage of the competition was special. That was why Long Wenyuan took advantage of the loophole. As soon as this statement came out, the surrounding clamor lessened. Many of the non-human beings agreed with Wu Xingyuan's words. The second stage was indeed not a competition of strength. Long Wen's luck was indeed good, so he had the opportunity to overshadow Wu Xingyuan's limelight. Wu Wuxian's beautiful eyes turned cold. She wasn't targeting Wu Xingyuan, but Longwen. She wouldn't allow the number one genius of the Sorcerer tribe to be defeated. But now, Longwen had actually overshadowed Wu Xingyuan in the second stage. This was too ridiculous. Wu Wuxian's expression was calm, but her heart was furious. She wanted to kill Longwen. High Priestess, Longwen hasn't come out yet. Our divine senses can't enter. Why don't you stop the pressure? Let's see how Longwen is doing inside. Itai has said impatiently. Wu Wuxian shook her head and said, I can't control the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statue. I can only activate the statue, but I can't stop the pressure. However, this pressure will only exist for 2 hours. After 2 hours, the pressure will naturally disappear. Not far away, Crepe Myrtle Star frowned slightly. He felt that Wu Wuxian was lying. Wu Wuxian should be able to control the pressure, but she said that she couldn't. Obviously, she didn't want to remove the pressure in the deep pit. This was targeted at Zhuowen. Wu Xingyuan looked at Wu Wuxian again, but didn't say anything. He knew that Wu Wuxian was lying, but he remained silent. He even hoped that Longwen would die in the deep pit. This was the best result. As time passed, Zhuowen still hadn't appeared. Many of the foreign tribes around were talking about it. They all thought that Longwen might have died inside. At this moment, Zhuowen, who was in the deep pit, was bursting with blazing light. The light was very strong, but the pressure and dust around the deep pit completely covered the light. Even the aura didn't leak out. Zhuowen's eyes were full of light. The pressure of the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues was so strong that it had tempered his Pangu sacred body to the peak. That's right, Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body was about to break through. Even though he knew that it was impossible for him to break through to 8 stars, he knew that it wouldn't be a problem for him to break through to half 8 stars. This was also to build up his foundation for breaking through to 8 stars. Boom! Suddenly, the sparkling and translucent radiance on Zhuowen's body reached its peak. Countless rays of light overflowed in all directions, shooting out like arrows. A terrifying aura surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. The surrounding craters, under the effect of this terrifying energy, actually cracked open, expanding from 3 miles to more than 10 miles. At this moment, the terrifying pressure in the deep pit was completely annihilated. The moment the pressure was annihilated, Zhuowen's aura was retracted under the effect of the Panga banner. At this moment, all the foreign tribes outside were leaving the central area of the guarded ground. They looked at the deep pit that had expanded several times in front of them in shock. Just now, this 3-kilometer-wide crater suddenly burst open, and a terrifying energy burst out, directly expanding the crater to its current size of more than 10 kilometers. The nearby foreign tribes quickly retreated far away, looking at the expanding deep pit in front of them with lingering fear. None of the foreign tribes thought that this strange phenomenon had anything to do with Zhuowen. They all thought that it was caused by the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statues. That Longwen should be dead for sure. That terrifying energy burst out just now. Even if he doesn't die, he'll die. That was what most of the foreign tribes thought. Chapter 3340. Feng Bumming came looking for them. The moment they heard the clear sound of footsteps, all the foreign tribe members looked in the direction of the footsteps. They saw that the dust in the deep pit in front of them was swept away and dispersed. A figure as straight as a spear appeared in front of them. This guy, he's not dead. Shi Fu and Shi Inzhou's faces turned ugly. The patriarch of the Moonwolf tribe, Itaiha, frowned slightly. He looked deeply at the figure that emerged from the deep pit and muttered in a low voice. These dragon runes are really not simple. It seems that I made a mistake back then. Qian Ping, who had called Zhuowen a country bumpkin, also fell silent. Or rather, she was stunned and could not say anything. Tu Qian, who was standing beside Qian Ping, no longer had the arrogance in his eyes. Instead, it was replaced by seriousness and fear. The most shocked person was Wu Xingyuan, who was standing beside Wu Wuxian. The moment Zhuowen appeared, his body trembled slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. What Wu Xingyuan could not understand was how terrifying the pressure of the 12 wizard statues was. Even an expert in the advanced stage of the sky-piercing master realm would be severely injured if he was enveloped by such a terrifying pressure. But what kind of freak was this long one? Not only did he survive, but his body was also spotless. He didn't seem to have any injuries at all. How'd he do it? Wu Xingyan remembered clearly that when he could not withstand the pressure of the 12 wizard statues and had retreated, he had specially looked at Zhuowen. At that time, although Zhuowen was in a better state than he was also in a sorry state. He was not as spotless as he was now. Furthermore, Wu Xingyuan could faintly feel that Zhuowen's strength seemed to have improved compared to before. Even so, he still could not see Zhuowen's specific cultivation level. On the other hand, Wu Wuxian's expression turned ugly. His desire to kill Zhuowen grew even stronger. Originally, Wu Wuxian had planned to use the pressure of the wizard statues to completely destroy Zhuowen. However, she did not expect Zhuowen to come out unscathed. This was a slap to her face. Although Wu Wuxian was filled with killing intent toward Zhuowen, she could not do it now. After all, the witch song contest still had to continue. Wu Wuxian waved her sleeve and a surge of energy poured out. It landed on the huge pit in the middle of the guarded ground. The huge pit was immediately filled Wu Wuxian's sky-piercing master realm. After that, Wu Wuxian did not even mention Zhuowen. Instead, he said indifferently, "Now that the second stage is over, the 108 contestants have been chosen. I will give you 3 days to rest. Rest in the guarded ground. The heavens, the energy in the guarded ground is much. Is the energy, is heavens, is the realm world way, is the heavens world. 3. I is master realm. I, Wu Wuxian and Wu Wuxian, studio, Wu Wuxian, studio, Wu studio. Brother Long, you have to be careful of Wu Wuxian. Due to your outstanding performance in the second round, Wu Wuxian might hold a grudge against you." Jing Shan's voice rang in Zhuowen's mind as soon as he arrived beside Crepe Star Sovereign. Zhuowen turned his head and looked at Jing Shan. He nodded at her, indicating that he knew what he was doing. "Brother Zhuo, you should have come down earlier. You stole Wu Xingyuan's limelight. I'm afraid the witch tribe will do something to you." Crepe Star Sovereign sighed. Zhuowen smiled. "Brother Crepe Star Sovereign, the reason why I didn't come down is that the pressure from the witch statue is beneficial to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stolen the limelight. After all, the risk is too great." Crepe Star Sovereign was stunned. He nodded and did not ask what benefits Zhuowen had obtained. He knew that Zhuowen had a big secret, since Zhuowen could benefit from it. As a friend, he was happy for him. After chatting for a while, they found a remote place and sat down cross-legged, intending to adjust their state. Both Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch were not injured. Crepe Star Sovereign had retreated in advance. With his strength, it would be strange if he was injured. Zhuowen's Pangu's sacred body had just advanced to half an 8-star, so he was in good condition. However, he also knew that he had just advanced, so he had to consolidate his realm first to prevent it from becoming unstable. This advancement made Zhuowen very confident. If he could get the witch venom, his Panga's sacred body would be able to advance to the 8-star level. While he was consolidating his Pangu sacred body, his original body in the great world began to separate a small part of his divine soul and began to condense the second divine soul sword essence. Although Zhuowen already had the experience from last time, the process of condensing this time still caused him to grimace in pain. However, his condition was much better than the first time. After the separation of the divine soul, the rest was the continuous condensation process. It could be said that Zhuowen's divine soul and the cultivation of his physical body were not neglected. However, when he was condensing the second divine soul sword essence, Zhuowen began to find that his divine soul could not hold on any longer. He had no doubt that if he condensed the third divine soul sword essence, his divine soul would probably collapse. He knew that this was because his divine soul was not strong enough. If his divine soul was strong enough, it would be fine no matter how many divine soul sword essences he condensed. Not long after Zhuowen sat cross-legged to cultivate, he heard footsteps approaching him. He opened his eyes and found that a figure had already walked in front of him, facing him. When he saw the true face of this figure, The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. The owner of this figure turned out to be the genius of the Phoenix people, Fong Bumming. Fong Bumming looked at Zhuowen, cupped his hands, and said politely, "Fellow Taoist Long, I'm Fong Bumming of the Phoenix people. I wonder if you have time, fellow Taoist Long? I have something to discuss with you." Although Fong Bumming's tone was polite, Zhuowen could still see the arrogance and displeasure in Fong Bumming's eyes. He glanced at the Phoenix Master Fong Liluo of the Phoenix People's team behind Fong Bumming. He knew that Fong Bumming had come to find him under Fong Liluo's instructions. "If you have something to say it quickly," Zhuowen said calmly. Fong Bumming was stunned and immediately flew into a rage. Fortunately, he was more scheming and did not flare up on the spot. He said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoist Long, you have to know that I'm representing the Phoenix people to find you. Is this your attitude? Are the Phoenix people that great? I've even killed Shiryu from the Ghoul clan. Why would I be afraid of you Phoenix people? Or are you saying that the Phoenix people are much stronger than the Ghoul clan?" Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Fong Bumming was flustered and exasperated, but he did not dare to respond to Zhuowen's words. Although the Phoenix people were part of the top 10 clans, their strength was not ranked high. On the other hand, the Ghoul clan was very strong and could be ranked in the top 3 among the top 10 clans. Chapter 33:41. The third stage. In the end, Fong Bumming did not manage to find a chance to discuss with Zhuowen. Instead, he was furious. When Fong Bumming told Fong Liluo about the conversation between him and Zhuowen, Fong Liluo was not angry. Instead, she looked at Zhuowen seriously. From Fong Bumming's words, she could tell that the dragon language seemed to be prejudiced against the Phoenix people. However, Fong Liluo knew very well that the Phoenix people did not recognize the dragon language at all. This made Fong Liluo feel strange, and she felt a little uneasy. Not long after Fong Bumming left, the geniuses of the other big tribes came to Zhuowen one after another. Unfortunately, they were all rejected by Zhuowen. This made many geniuses of the foreign tribes unhappy with Zhuowen. 3 days passed quickly, and Zhuowen had completely consolidated his half-step to 8-star realm. Even if he did not rely on the Panga banner, the aura on his body would not easily leak out and be detected by others. Meanwhile, Wu Wuxian walked out of the Sorcerer Tribe's hall again. This time, Wu Wuxian only brought Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiuran, and Wu Wenbin, the 3 geniuses who were participating in the Sorcerer Song Conference. As for the other Sorcerer Tribe elites, he did not bring them along. Moreover, many of the foreign tribes in the square also noticed that Wu Wuxian, who had just walked out, had a look of anxiety in his eyes. He seemed to be a little absent-minded. Zhuowen also noticed Wu Wuxian's anxious expression, and he was a little confused. What could have happened that would make the high priest of the Sorcerer Tribe, who was in a high position, so anxious? Zhuowen could not help but recall that when Wu Wuxian had come out to host a conference, he had said that the Sorcerer Tribe had an important guest, and the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master had personally received that important guest. Zhuowen believed that the only person who could make Wu Wuxian so anxious was the important guest that even the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master had to personally receive. Thinking of this, Zhuowen was very curious about the important guest who had come to the Sorcerer Tribe. What kind of person could make a peerless tribe like the Sorcerer Tribe so cautious? The anxiety on Wu Wuxian's face was quickly concealed. She walked to the front of the square and said in a low voice, "The 108 contestants who advanced in the second round, I wonder if you have adjusted your conditions. If you have adjusted, then gather in front of me." After Wu Wuxian, Zhuowen, and Purple Star Sovereign, the Star, and the 108 foreign tribes, and Wu Wuxian all gathered star. Wu Wuxian, and Wu Wuxian was a Wuxian realm, Wu, Wuxian, Wu, and Wuxian Wu. Zhuowen looked at Wu Xingyuan and realized that Wu Xingyuan had recovered. He was still looking down on the world as if he was standing on the clouds, overlooking all the living things in the world. Moreover, since Wu Xingyuan appeared, he didn't even look at Zhuowen. This was blatant disregard. However, Zhuowen did not care. He knew that Wu Xingyuan had adjusted his state of mind. In this state, Wu Xingyuan was the most terrifying. He really had the foundation to look down on all the geniuses of his generation. Even Zhuowen could not help but admire Wu Xingyuan. If he had fought Wu Xingyuan before, he would not have thought that his chances of winning were high. However, his pang to sacred body had improved. If he used all the power in his body, his chances of winning against Wu Xingyuan were at least 50%. The third round of the competition is very simple. Do you see the 12 wizard statues around you? Inside each wizard statue, there is a mysterious and vast space. You can choose one of the wizard statues and enter it to fight. The final winner will get one of the 12 spots, Wu Wuxian said calmly. Hearing this, all the foreign tribes could not help but look at the 12 wizard statues around them. They knew that the third round of the competition was similar to the first round. They would choose one wizard statue, and the final winner would get one spot. From there, the 12 spots would be chosen. In an instant, many of the foreign tribes looked at the top geniuses of the top 10 tribes with fear. For example, Wu Xingyuan, Shi Fu, and other famous and terrifying geniuses. They knew very well that they had no chance of winning against such geniuses. In the end, they would become the stepping stones of others. You can start choosing now. This round is similar to the first round. If you die in the space of the wizard statues, you will not really die. A substitute will automatically be born to die in your place. The loser will be eliminated directly. Hearing this, Wu Wuxian looked at the 108 contestants in front of the square. However, none of the contestants started choosing. They were sizing up their opponents and paying attention to their every move. Obviously, they were planning to choose after the others. They hoped that they could choose a space of a weaker wizard statue. Brother Long One, do you dare to enter the candle dragon statue with me? Suddenly, Wu Xingyuan, who was standing at the front, turned around and looked at Zhuowen. Wu Xingyuan's voice immediately attracted the attention of all the foreign tribes. Everyone looked at Zhuowen. They were very surprised. They didn't expect Wu Xingyuan to ask Zhuowen to enter the ancestral witch statue with him. This was a challenge. Zhuowen shook his head and said, Brother Xingyuan, you are very powerful. However, I don't think there's a need for us to fight so early. In fact, there is no need for us to fight at all. Zhuowen's goal was to enter the wizard magical pond. He would not enter the wizard statue where Wu Xingyuan was. There were too many variables, and it was not worth it. Wu Xingyuan nodded and remained expressionless. He turned around and no longer paid attention to Zhuowen. He took a step forward and entered the candle dragon statue. I thought that this long one would be so unyielding. I didn't expect him to be such a coward. Qian Ping, who was in the Moon Wolf tribe, said with disdain. Qian Ping was not the only one. Many of the geniuses who had high hopes for Zhuowen shook their heads when they saw that Zhuowen did not dare to accept the challenge. At the same time, many of the foreign tribe geniuses who saw Zhuowen as their opponent heaved a sigh of relief. After all, Zhuowen had defeated Wu Xingyuan in the second round, and they subconsciously thought that Zhuowen was not weak. Now, it seemed that Su Mo had defeated Wu Xingyuan in the second round because of luck and not because of his real strength. Since that was the case, many of the foreign tribe geniuses were less fearful of Zhuowen than before. After Wu Xingyan entered the candle dragon statue, Wu Qiutong, Feng Bumming, and the rest of the geniuses from the top 10 tribes chose the statues that they liked. However, they were smart, and they purposely avoided the statues of the top geniuses from the top 10 tribes. Shi Fu from the Corpse Ghost tribe did not choose the wizard statue. He crossed his arms and looked at Zhuowen coldly. Shi Fu's action naturally attracted the attention of many of the surrounding foreign tribes. They quickly understood the Shi Fu's attitude. The Shi Fu was waiting for Long One to enter first before going in. It seems that Shi Fu is targeting Long One. I'm afraid Long One will be eliminated this time. If Shi Fu and Long One enter the same statue, Long One will definitely be eliminated. Long One's performance in the second round had nothing to do with his strength. If it's a real battle, then this Long One can only be considered to be at the bottom of the 108 contestants. Chapter 3342.d. Jiangwen glanced at the Shi Fu, who was looking at him mockingly, and sneered in his heart. He was indeed afraid of Wu Xingyuan, but it did not mean that he was afraid of the Shi Fu. After all, Wu Xingyuan was the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe. He had a unique and terrifying force, and he cultivated both the way of heaven and the sorcerer physique. He was at the middle stage of the master of heaven, and his strength was much stronger than the Shi Fu. He was confident that he had a 50% chance of winning against Wu Xingyuan, and he had a 100% chance of winning against the Shi Fu. The reason why he had not entered yet was that he was observing Feng Bumming's movements. He and the Phoenix people were already mortal enemies. Feng Bumming had threatened to kill him several times, and he would not rest until he was dead. He naturally did not intend to let the Phoenix people get a spot to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Feng Bumming was very cautious. He had not chosen the ancestral sorcerer's statue yet. He knew very well how important this spot was to him and the Phoenix people. This was the last round. As long as he could stand out in this round, the spot to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond would be at his fingertips. This was also his last chance. He knew very well that if he couldn't even get a single spot, he might even lose his life. Therefore, he had to be cautious and cautious. Feng Bumming glanced at the Shi Fu. Among the geniuses of the 10 great clans, only the Shi Fu had not entered. In other words, among the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues, 3 of them did not have the top geniuses of the 10 great clans. Feng Bumming was a little worried. If he chose an ancestral sorcerer statue, and the Shi Fu entered the same statue, wouldn't that be terrible? However, Feng Bumming could also see that the Shi Fu was waiting for Longwen's situation. If Longwen did not move, the Shi Fu would not do anything either. Feng Bumming looked coldly at Longwen. He did not want to wait any longer. In his opinion, Longwen would not be so stupid. He knew that the Shi Fu would target him, but he still dared to enter the ancestral sorcerer statue where Feng Bumming was. That was simply courting death. Feng Bumming and the others had the same idea. Longwen came from a small clan after all. How powerful could he be? He could not be compared to the top geniuses of the 10 great clans. He believed that Longwen was a smart person. Thinking of this, Feng Bumming chose the statue of Di Jiang. This was one of the remaining 3 statues that did not contain the top geniuses of the other top 10 clans. The Phoenix Master, Feng Luo, who was standing in front of the square, nodded to herself after seeing Feng Bumming make his choice. In Feng Luo's opinion, as long as there were no top geniuses from the other 10 major clans, Feng Bumming would definitely be able to get a spot. As for Shi Fu, he did not think that Shi Fu would choose the same which ancestor statue as Feng Bumming, because there was no need. After all, other than the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe, the remaining 9 geniuses of the top 10 tribes were enough for the geniuses of the other top 10 tribes to share. There was no need for Shi Fu to choose the same ancestral which statue as Feng Bumming. If he had chosen the same one, he would have become enemies with the Phoenix people. The loss outweighed the gain. When Zhuowen saw that Feng Bumming had entered the statue of Di Jiang, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. With a kick of his right foot, he flew directly toward the statue of Di Jiang. "Umph, you finally moved. I thought you were going to be like a coward and not dare to go out." Shi Fu sneered and followed behind Zhuowen. The actions of Zhuowen and Shi Fu immediately attracted the attention of many foreign clans. After all, Zhuowen's performance in the second stage was too eye-catching, and Shi Fu was one of the top geniuses. The actions of these 2 people had no choice but to be noticed. When Zhuowen and Shi Fu entered the statue of Di Jiang at the same time, Feng Luo of the Phoenix people was so angry that his face turned ashen. He did not expect that Longwen would choose the statue of Di Jiang, where Feng Bumming was, and even lead Shi Fu in. This was definitely intentional. Even Corpsine Marsh was startled. He naturally had no objection to Shi Fu dealing with Longwen and even approved of it. However, Longwen had entered the statue of Di Jiang, where Feng Bumming was. This was going to cause trouble. Interesting. This Longwen actually chose to enter the statue of ancestral sorcerer, where Feng Bumming is. I don't know if it's intentional or not. The patriarch of the Moonwolf clan, Itaiha, narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. Qian Ping, who was standing beside Itaiha, sneered and mocked. This Long One really doesn't know what's good for him. The Shifu has already targeted him, and he still chose to enter the statue of ancestral sorcerer where foam bumming is. A dead pig is not afraid of boiling water. The moment Zhuowen entered the statue of ancestral sorcerer, he felt that the world was spinning. Soon after, he found that his feet were stepping on a thick ground. The moment he landed on the ground, a pleasant singing voice reverberated in his ears. This voice was filled with a magnetic male voice. He raised his head and found that he was standing at the foot of a mountain. Above his head was a steep and dangerous mountain peak. This mountain peak was huge. It was definitely the largest mountain that Zhuowen had seen in countless years. At the peak of the mountain, there was a heavy snowfall covering the mountain peak with a thick layer of snow. Zhuowen looked around and found that other than this mountain peak, there was nothing else. Moreover, he did not see the Shifu that had followed him into the statue of ancestral sorcerer. It was as if he was the only one here. Let's go up and take a look. Zhuowen stepped toward the peak of the mountain. This space was very strange. His divine will couldn't extend as far as it wanted, and could only detect a very short distance. This mountain was too big. Within the range of Zhuowen's divine thought, he did not see any other contestants at all. He could only continue to climb up. When Zhuowen climbed halfway up the mountain, the entire mountain peak shook violently. Immediately, Zhuowen saw an unprecedentedly huge figure in the sky, filled with heavy snowfall. This figure was even bigger than the mountain peak. It hovered above the sky and cast a shadow that enveloped the entire mountain peak. Moreover, as this figure continued to hover, it was singing an ancient and vicissitude song. The song was pleasing to the ear and carried a sense of history that had been immersed in for a long time. It spread throughout the space where the mountain peak was located. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and finally saw the huge figure hovering in the sky. This figure was shaped like a yellow sack and was as red as fire. It had 6 legs and 4 wings and was completely without a face. It's Dijiang? No, it's not the real Dijiang. It should be an illusion of Dijiang. The moment Zhuowen saw the figure clearly, he knew that this was the illusion of ancestral sorcerer Dijiang. Its figure was almost exactly the same as the statue of Dijiang outside. However, this illusion of Dijiang was many times larger than the statue. Zhuowen knew very well that this illusion of Dijiang should be the master who had built the statue. In this space, he had set up a projection array, mainly to show the demeanor of ancestral sorcerer. He believed that in the other 11 ancestral sorcerer statues, there should be illusions of ancestral sorcerer like this one. Shifu, why are you here? Why did you enter the world of Dijiang's statue? Suddenly, in the distance above the mountain peak, there was a strong battle fluctuation. Then, Zhuowen heard Foam Bumming's shocked and angry voice. Huh, do I need your permission to choose which statue I want? Foam Bumming, you think too highly of yourself. Then, Shifu's cold laughter was heard. Chapter 33:43. Humiliation. When Zhuowen arrived at the peak of the mountain, he realized that there was a wide, open space on the peak. However, under the influence of the heavy snow, the open space was covered by a thick layer of snow. It looked more like a world of ice and snow. There were 10 figures gathered on the open space. Zhuowen could tell at a glance that these 10 figures were the foreign tribe geniuses who were participating in the 3rd stage of the Sorcerer Song Conference. Of course, the most obvious ones were the 2 figures standing in the middle of the open space, facing each other from afar. These 2 figures were the Phoenix People's genius, Foam Bumming, and the Corpse Ghost Clan's genius, Shifu. The other 8 foreign tribe geniuses all retreated far away and looked at the 2 of them with fear in their eyes. These foreign tribe geniuses were all powerful to be able to make it to the 3rd stage of the Sorcerer Song Conference. However, no matter how powerful they were nothing in front of Foam Bumming and Shifu, 2 monstrous geniuses. Now that these 2 geniuses were facing each other, it was an opportunity for them. After all, they had no chance of winning if they were to face these two geniuses head-on. However, if Fu and Foam Bumming were both injured, they would have a great chance of winning. Now, they only needed to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. It would not be too late for them to make a move when they fought to the death. Foam Bumming's expression was ugly. At the same time, he could not understand why Fu chose his wizard ancestor statue. He did not seem to have any grudges with Fu. Although their realms were about the same, they were both early-stage masters of heaven. However, Foam Bumming knew very well that he was much weaker than Fu in terms of strength. After all, he had just become a master of heaven not long ago, while Fu was already an early-stage master of heaven 1,000 years ago. Fu was probably not far from the middle-stage master of heaven now. He only needed an opportunity to successfully break through. Foam Bumming admitted that he was inferior to such a powerhouse. Brother Fu, you and I don't have to face each other now. It's not worth it. Weren't you staring at Long One earlier? Why didn't you enter the wizard ancestor statue where Long One was? Foam Bumming said helplessly. Fu sneered. I was following Long One. Foam Bumming, although you're no match for me, I don't want to fight you either. After all, you and I are both from the 10 great clans. However, that Long One is extremely bold. He followed closely behind you after you entered the Jiang statue. You also know that I must personally annihilate that Long One. After all, I already have a great enmity with that bastard. Since he has entered the statue of Jiang, you should understand why I am here. Upon hearing this, Foam Bumming's pupils constricted. The fury in his eyes was as violent as a volcanic eruption. Long One, that bastard, he intentionally lured you here. Foam Bumming was burning with anger. He did not expect that Long One would dare to do such a thing. He must have done it on purpose. At this moment, Foam Bumming was completely jealous of Long One. I don't care if he did it on purpose or not. My goal is to humiliate him and defeat him in my hands. After the Sorcerer Song Festival, I will personally kill this piece of trash. Then, the race behind him will be exterminated. Fu's gaze was calm. He did not take Foam Bumming seriously at all. This made Foam Bumming feel humiliated. Brother Fu, please wait a moment. Foam Bumming, know that if I fight with you, there is a high chance that I will lose. I admit that I'm not as good as you. Foam Bumming saw that Fu was about to attack and quickly stopped him. It's not that there's a high chance that you will lose, but that you will definitely lose. Foam Bumming, if you surrender and commit suicide now, I won't have to eliminate you. Fu said proudly. Foam Bumming frowned slightly and said in a low voice, Brother Fu, that Long One is playing with us. Moreover, he wants to reap the benefits. Are you really going to fall in his trap? Fu sneered and said, Foam Bumming, how can I not know that ant's tricks? But so what if that ant is playing tricks in front of me? After I kill you, I will kill him. The outcome will be the same. In the face of absolute strength, what is the use of that ant's tricks? It is just a last-ditch struggle. Foam Bumming's face was gloomy. Fu's contemptuous tone made him very unhappy. Brother Fu, I admit that I am not your opponent, but it is not that easy for you to get rid of me. You may not understand what I mean. Since you were brought in by that Long One, I can't take this lying down. Foam Bumming said, Oh, what do you mean? Fu stopped and looked at Foam Bumming up and down. I will help you destroy that Long One. After I get rid of that damn Long One, we will decide the winner. Foam Bumming gritted his teeth and said, That Long One dared to trick him. He must take revenge personally. He did not want to let Long One get away with it. In that case, I will give you a chance. I will let you deal with that Long One. However, you must die in front of me. Fu said. Of course, Foam Bumming said with a smile. After Fu and Foam Bumming reached an agreement, they stopped fighting. They both planned to find that Long One first, get rid of him, and then decide the winner. As for the 8 foreign races hiding in the distance, when they saw that Fu and Foam Bumming had stopped fighting and had reached an agreement, their eyes revealed a look of regret. Foam Bumming, Fu, you make it sound so easy. You find me as if you can kill me, but I think it is the opposite. When you meet me, You will all run away with your tails between your legs. No, you won't even have the chance to escape. You can only be killed by me with your tails between your legs." A voice full of mockery came from afar. On the mountain rampart outside the open space, a figure landed on the open space like lightning. This person stepped on the snow without leaving a trace. In the heavy snow, he was like a spotless white lotus. Even the snowflakes could not stain his body. Long One, Shifu looked at this figure, and the murderous intent in his eyes uncontrollably surged. Feng Bumming gritted his teeth as he looked at this figure, as if he wanted to skin this person alive. The 8 foreign race geniuses hiding at the side also looked at Zhuowen in surprise. They did not expect Long One to be so bold. Feng Bumming and Shifu were both here, but he still dared to come over so openly. Was he here to die? Long One, you are really something. After today, I, Feng Bumming, will kill you on behalf of the Phoenix people. Feng Bumming said coldly. You? Are you worthy? Zhuowen glanced at Feng Bumming indifferently, but sneered disdainfully. This time, he really angered Feng Bumming. Shifu despised him in every way, and he accepted it. After all, it was a fact that Shifu was stronger than him. However, who was this Long One? He was just an ant from a small race. He actually put on such a high attitude and looked down on him. What was this Long One? Chapter 3344. Violent beating. The moment Feng Bumming attacked, Shifu stood motionless. He stared at Zhuowen and wanted to see how Long One would dodge Feng Bumming's attack. Although he had a deep impression of Zhuowen's powerful killing of Shiryu in the guarded ground. But in his opinion, there was still a big gap between him and an early-stage master of heaven like Feng Bumming. Die! Feng Bumming's right hand formed a palm and slammed down. Terrifying flames covered the surface of his palm like lightning. In an instant, the surrounding temperature, which was originally cold because of the heavy snow, suddenly rose and became as hot as a furnace. The thick snow melted into water vapor on a large scale. Feng Bumming had used all his strength. This move poured out most of his power, which was enough to seriously injure an early-stage master of heaven. The faces of the other foreign tribe geniuses, who were hiding at the side, changed when they saw Feng Bumming's move. Their pupils shrank. They knew that Zhuowen was finished. Feng Bumming's move was too terrifying. Shifu also nodded secretly. Feng Bumming's move was very powerful. Even if he faced it head-on, he would have to put in some effort to resolve it. What's more, the one facing this move was Zhuowen, who he had always thought of as a nobody. Zhuowen stood in the same place, his eyes cold. He looked at Feng Bumming's approaching palm, wrapped in monstrous flames, and sneered in his heart. It was just an ordinary punch. Before he had broken through, he had already defeated Feng Bumming. Now that his Panga's sacred body had improved again, he did not take Feng Bumming seriously at all. Boom! The moment the fist and palm collided, an extremely terrifying torrent burst out. A dazzling light burst out between Zhuowen and Feng Bumming, like a rising sun, emitting light and heat to its heart's content. Feng Bumming's face changed. The moment he came into contact with Zhuowen's fist, he felt an extremely terrifying and irresistible force surging over and filling his entire body. Puffed. Feng Bumming spat out a mouthful of blood. The power of the palm was completely dissolved. Feng Bumming's eyes were filled with horror. He hurriedly retreated, intending to escape from the explosion. Unfortunately, a hand quickly reached out. Before Feng Bumming could react, the hand grabbed his neck and lifted him in the air. Ah! Feng Bumming cried out in grief and indignation. He summoned all the energy in his body, trying to break free from the hand. Unfortunately, he failed in the end. This palm seemed to have an earth-shattering power, firmly clasping his neck. He couldn't break free at all, and Feng Bumming also saw the true face of this palm. How is this possible? Long Feng Bumming translation. With great difficulty, his heart was in turbulence. Of Long One is... At this moment, the aftermath of the battle had completely dissipated. When the remaining 8 outsiders and the corpse pups saw the scene in the middle of the battle, they were all stunned. Zhuowen stood at his original spot like a spear, and Feng Bumming, who was still terrifying just now, was easily lifted up by Zhuowen with one hand. He was in an extremely sorry state and was extremely humiliated. What's with this dragon text? Did Feng Bumming lose to him? Aren't you spouting nonsense? Didn't you see Feng Bumming struggling in Long Wen's hands? This Long Wen really hid his strength well. His strength is actually so terrifying that even Feng Bumming was beaten so badly by him. As for the 8 outsiders who were hiding far away from Zhuowen, they all retreated as far as they could, trying their best to get as far away from him as possible. They knew that they had underestimated Long Wen before. Who would have thought that Long Wen would be so powerful that he could take care of Feng Bumming in such a short period of time? Even a corpse servant might not be able to do it. With these thoughts in mind, the 8 outsiders couldn't help but fix their eyes on the corpse pup. Shifu stood in place with his brows slightly furrowed, as if he was thinking about something. Shifu's shock was no less than that of the 8 outsiders. He had always regarded Zhuowen as an ant and felt that as long as he made a move, it would be more than enough to take down Zhuowen. But now, his thoughts were shaken because Long Wen had actually defeated Feng Bumming in one move. He already had the strength of an early-stage Master of Heaven, and it was not the strength of an ordinary early-stage Master of Heaven. At least, he had the strength to fight against him. Brother Shifu, what are you still standing there for? This Long Wen is not simple. Let's work together to destroy him. Feng Bumming saw that Shifu was in a daze and hurriedly shouted excitedly. Now that he was restrained by Zhuowen, he could not break free at all. He could only place his hopes on Shifu. Noisy! Zhuowen snorted coldly, and his right hand suddenly exploded with a terrifying power. Feng Bumming screamed as this terrifying power invaded his body. Then his body exploded inch by inch. In the end, his entire body exploded into a cloud of blood mist, and he couldn't be more dead. After killing Feng Bumming, Zhuowen turned to look at Shifu and said indifferently, "It's your turn next." Shifu's face was gloomy. He was now full of fear for Zhuowen. "You're just from a small clan. Why do you have such powerful strength? You must have some unspeakable secret." "Long Wen, I've changed my mind now. After the Sorcerer's Song Conference, I don't plan to kill you. Our Corpse Ghost Clan won't pursue what you did before. As long as you hand over your secret, we'll automatically withdraw from this situation. Not only will you not die, but I'll also make you a dog of our Corpse Ghost Clan." Shifu said, "Idiot. Today, not only will I kill you, but I'm also not afraid of your Corpse Ghost Clan. If your Corpse Ghost Clan wants to go against me, then I'll destroy your Corpse Ghost Clan." After Zhuowen slowly finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot, leaving behind only a terrifying wave of air. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Shifu. His right fist blasted out like lightning, carrying the power of thousands of kilograms. It was indestructible. Shifu's face turned ugly. He also attacked with all his strength and said coldly, "If that's the case, then you're dead. Even if you kneel and beg for mercy after this, you're still dead. Also, don't think that you're my opponent just because you killed Feng Bumming. In my eyes, Feng Bumming is just a piece of trash. It's very easy for me to kill him." Bang, bang, bang. In just an instant, Zhuowen and Shifu collided. Terrifying explosions continued to explode around the two of them. After more than 10 rounds, Shifu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Zhuowen floated in the air and looked down at Shifu, who was struggling on the ground. After the Pangu's sacred body was promoted, his physical strength had reached an extremely terrifying level. After all, his sacred body had already peaked into the mysteries of the 8 stars. His strength had increased significantly. Chapter 3345, The Might of the Divine Soul Sword Intent. Feng Bumming is indeed a good-for-nothing, and you're just a good-for-nothing who's slightly stronger than Feng Bumming. You're just 2 good-for-nothings. Do you think you're great to be gossiping behind my back? Zhuowen floated in midair and looked down at Shifu from above. His voice was as loud as muffled thunder. Shifu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and struggled to stand up. He raised his head and looked at Zhuowen in horror, but his expression became very ugly. He knew that he had underestimated Long One. With the powerful strength that Long One displayed just now, he could probably compete with Wu Xingyuan, especially Zhuowen's words just now. It was like a needle piercing his heart, causing him unbearable pain and grief. Long One, I've underestimated you. I really didn't expect your strength to be so amazing, but I'm afraid it won't be that easy for you to defeat me. Shifu's eyes were cold, and the black gas around him suddenly swept out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Then 9 black figures rushed out from the black gas and surrounded Zhuowen in an instant. Zhuowen looked carefully and found that these 9 black shadows were actually 9 pitch-black skulls. Each skull was only the size of a fist. Especially the empty eyes of these skulls. They seemed to be staring at him, looking extremely strange. 9 skulls encirclement. Shifu's voice was sharp. He formed a seal with both hands and bit the tip of his tongue at the same time, spitting on the 9 skulls. Suddenly, the aura of the 9 skulls became exceptionally powerful and terrifying. Endless black gas surged out like a wave, as if it had turned into a black cloud sea. Zhuowen could feel an unparalleled killing intent within the sea of black clouds. He knew that this should be Shifu's final trump card. Its power was very impressive. Even Zhuowen revealed a solemn expression. On the other hand, after Shifu spat out the blood essence, his face was extremely pale, like the face of a dead person. Obviously, the price Shifu paid to use this move should be extremely high. Longwen, you can use this move before me, so you can be considered to have died a worthy death. The corpse pup's voice was as sharp as a malicious spirit's as it let out a hideous laugh. This 9 skulls encirclement was a terrifying secret technique that he had to expend a large amount of blood essence to activate. In the past, he had relied on this secret art to severely injure a mid-stage heaven-reaching master. Although he was only a mid-stage Empyrean Lord, he was still a mid-stage Empyrean Lord. He was much stronger than an early-stage Empyrean Lord. From this, one could see how terrifying Shifu's secret technique was. The expressions of the other 8 outsider geniuses who were watching from afar changed drastically the moment Shifu used the 9 skeleton siege. They had all heard of Shifu's trump card and knew how terrifying it was. As far as they were concerned, even if this move couldn't destroy Long One, it would definitely be able to heavily injure him. Boom! Boom! The 9 skulls let out ear-piercing screeches and immediately rushed over from 9 different directions. In an instant, they exploded on Zhuowen's body. Countless black chi spread out, blocking his line of sight. He could only hear the terrifying and sharp explosions inside. Pucci! Shifu fell to the ground and spat out another mouthful of blood. However, his expression was quite relaxed. He was confident that this 9 skulls encirclement would definitely be able to kill Zhuowen. This was because his secret technique had never failed before. Boom! The fluctuations of the 9 skulls encirclement soon dissipated, but an indifferent voice came from mid-air. Shifu, is this your trump card? It's just SOSO. Shifu suddenly raised his head and looked at Zhuowen, who was in mid-air, in disbelief. He saw that Zhuowen's body was surrounded by dazzling white light. This white light was like a protective shield that enveloped Zhuowen's body, forming a powerful defense. Although there were many cracks on the surface of this white light, Zhuowen did not suffer any damage. Most of the damage was blocked by this white light that covered the surface of his body. The moment the 9 skulls encirclement completely erupted, Zhuowen used the profound light of creation. The 5 profound meanings that he had mastered were the most compatible with the Pangu sacred body. As the realm of his Pangu sacred body increased, the power of the 5 profound meanings also increased. His Pangu sacred body was already invincible and had an amazing defense. In addition to the terrifying defensive power of the profound light of creation, Zhuowen was able to withstand the full force attack of a middle-stage Tongtian master, let alone Sure Poo's desperate attack. This is impossible. You're completely fine. Sure Poo screamed and was on the verge of collapse. This was his best trump card. It had once severely injured a middle-stage Tongtian master, but this guy had actually blocked it. At this moment, Sure Poo's confidence completely collapsed, and he even became afraid. He realized that Long Wen's strength was much stronger than his. This thought made him crazy, and he did not want to believe it at all. Bang! Zhuowen leaped down and stomped the corpse beneath his feet. After Sure Poo used the 9 Skulls encirclement, he had almost exhausted all of his energy. At this moment, he was almost powerless to resist. Long Wen, it's useless for you to kill me here. After I die, I'll immediately be resurrected in the outside world. At that time, the Ghoul clan will not let you go. They'll definitely hunt you down and kill you. What's the use of being strong? No matter how strong you are, can you compete with our Ghoul clan? Sure Poo shouted crazily. Huh? Just because of what you said, you'll die here. You won't have a chance to get out alive. Zhuowen sneered. What kind of joke is this? It's impossible to really die here. Sure Poo sneered. You're right. In this world, before you die, it will protect your divine soul and teleport your divine soul out. Our physical bodies are automatically formed by this world. Destroying your physical body naturally won't kill you. However, before your divine soul transmits, destroying your divine soul, you're naturally dead for sure too. Zhuowen said coolly. Sure Poo shuddered and immediately laughed. Destroy my divine soul? Long Wen, you're thinking too much. This world has rules. When my divine soul is damaged, my divine soul will immediately be teleported away. You can at most injure my divine soul a little. You can't destroy it at all. Ordinary methods indeed can't do it. But an attack targeting the divine soul is sufficient. As Zhuowen said, he stirred up the divine soul sword intent that had already condensed into a sword inside his divine soul. The instant Sure Poo became absent-minded, the divine soul sword intent suddenly swept out from between Zhuowen's brows, turning into a formless and immaterial sword intent, instantly rushing into the depths of Sure Poo's glabella. Before his glabella reacted, he only felt his divine soul turn into a mass of paste and could not help crying out miserably. At the instant Sure Poo's divine soul was wantonly destroyed, Zhuowen could clearly feel that inside this world, there was a force wrapping Sure Poo's divine soul and teleporting it away. But Zhuowen was not worried. His divine soul sword intent was too powerful. Furthermore, it already entered the interior of Sure Poo's divine soul. Chapter 33:46. The result, the moment Zhuowen killed Sure Poo, the 8 foreign tribe geniuses who were watching at the edge of the snowy ground shuddered. They looked at Zhuowen with fear in their eyes. Do the 8 of you want to fight me as well? Zhuowen turned around and looked at the 8 foreign tribe geniuses who were filled with fear as he asked calmly. The 8 foreign tribe geniuses looked at each other and knelt down on one knee to show that they had surrendered. Kill yourselves. Save me the trouble. Zhuowen placed his hands behind his back and said calmly. The 8 foreign tribe geniuses sighed and chose to kill themselves. Long Wen had even killed geniuses like Feng Bumming and Sure Poo. Even if they joined forces, their chances of winning were slim. They might as well kill themselves to avoid the humiliation. After the 8 foreign tribe geniuses killed themselves and disappeared into the snowy ground, Zhuowen was not taken away from the space. Instead, Dizhang's voice became louder and louder in the sky. It was getting closer and closer. Zhuowen raised his head abruptly, only to see the enormous illusory figure of the Dizhang swooping down and enveloping Zhuowen in an instant. The 12 witch ancestor statues in the guarded ground would emit white light from time to time, and foreign tribe geniuses would be teleported out. The foreign tribe geniuses who were teleported out were basically eliminated. Suddenly, after the last ray of white light flashed out from the candle dragon statue, a loud and clear roar of a strange beast rang out. It shook the heavens and the earth, causing the entire world to shake. Then, An enormous figure shot out from the candle dragon statue and charged into the sky. All the foreign tribe geniuses in the guarded ground were shocked. When they saw the figure, they were almost shocked. The real face of the figure was the real body of the witch ancestor, the candle dragon. A huge candle dragon was floating in the sky. It can't be. Did the witch ancestor come back to life? How is that possible? No, this is not the real candle dragon. It should be the candle dragon's shadow. Look, there's a figure standing on the illusionary figure of the candle dragon. That's Wu Xingyuan of the sorcerer tribe. Many alien races were frightened. However, they soon realized that Wu Xingyuan was standing proudly with his hands behind his back on the candle dragon's shadow. In the world of the ancestral sorcerer statue, defeating all the competitors will trigger the ancestral sorcerer's apparition, which will then appear in the guarded ground. Looks like Xingyuan has taken the lead in dealing with all his competitors. Wu Wuxian looked at the Wu Xingyuan on the candle dragon's shadow with a gratified expression. His slightly aged voice then sounded and explained this phenomenon to everyone. Everyone revealed a relieved expression. It seemed that the appearance of the ancestral sorcerer's shadow meant that someone had won. Not long after Wu Xingyuan appeared, the other two ancestral wizard statues also showed signs of abnormalities. Their respective ancestral wizard phantoms flew out. Standing on each of the two ancestral shaman silhouettes were the nine-tailed fox clan's genius, Wu Qiudong, and the moon wolf clan's genius, Tu Qian. Senior Tu Qian has advanced. He has obtained one of the 12 slots. Qian Ping, who was in the moon wolf clan's team, shouted excitedly. The moon wolf clan leader, Itaiha, also smiled with gratification. Tu Qian was a junior that he had high hopes for. His strength and talent were extremely powerful. Although he was not as strong as Wu Xingyuan, he was not much weaker than Shi Fu from the Corpse Spirit clan. It was difficult for him to find a worthy opponent in the initial stage of the Master Tongtian realm. The fact that Tu Qian could come out so quickly made Itaiha quite happy. Not long after Wu Qiudong and Tu Qian came out, the other ancestral wizard statues had also finished their battles. The victors rode on the ancestral sorcerer's shadow and appeared in the sky above the statues, looking down at all the alien races in the guarded ground. Soon, 10 geniuses had finished their battles. These 10 geniuses were all geniuses from the 10 great tribes. It was worth mentioning that among the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe, other than Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiran, and Wu Wenbin had also obtained slots. They each stood on the ancestral sorcerer's shadow and looked down at the guarded ground. Among them, the most eye-catching one was Jing Shan, the alien race genius from a small tribe. She had actually obtained one of the slots. The genius from the 10 great tribes that was eliminated by Jing Shan was the genius from the Merman tribe, Jiao Sha. When the 11th victor was revealed, all of the foreign races were shocked. This was because the 11th victor was still not a genius from one of the top 10 races. Instead, it was a genius from a small race. And this genius from a small race seemed to be called Purple Star. Many people knew that Zixing had a good relationship with Long One. However, many of the alien races felt that Zixing was quite lucky. As Feng Bumming and Shi Fu, the 2 geniuses from the 10 great tribes, had entered Dijiang statue, there were no geniuses from the 10 great tribes in the ancestral sorcerer statue that Zi-Wei Star entered. After the 11th winner was announced, all the alien race's attention fell on Dijiang statue. They all knew that there were 2 geniuses from the 10 great tribes in Dijiang statue. They were Feng Bumming from the Phoenix people and Shi Fu from the Corpse Ghoul tribe. Other than that, there was also Long One, who had made a name for himself in the second stage. They all wanted to know who would obtain the last slot. However, most of the alien races below unanimously believed that Shi Fu from the Corpse Ghoul tribe would have the last laugh. Feng Liluo from the Phoenix people was very anxious. She hated Long One to the core. He actually chose Dijiang statue where Feng Bumming was and led Shi Fu inside. Phoenix Master, you don't have to do this. Bumming's strength is not weak. He might not lose to Shi Fu. Grand Elder Mu Yu could not help but persuade Feng Liluo when she saw that Feng Liluo was anxious. Feng Lilua shook her head and said, Muyu, it's not like you don't know how powerful Shifu is. He dared to compete with Wu Xingyuan in the past, and he was already a Skireach Master 1,000 years ago. Bumming has only been promoted to Skireach Master for half a year. How could he be a match for Shifu? Muyu fell silent. She would just try to comfort Feng Lilua. She naturally knew how powerful Shifu was. It was not something that Feng Bumming could compare to. However, she still had some hope in her heart. Perhaps Feng Bumming would join forces with the other alien race geniuses to besiege Shifu. Then, Feng Bumming would have a chance to defeat Shifu. It's all because of that damned Long One. After the Sorcerer Song conference ends, we must tear Long One into pieces. Third Elder in Yin snorted coldly. Humph. Long One will definitely not let him go. Feng Lilua said. At that moment, a teleportation light appeared in Dijiang's statue, and it immediately attracted the attention of many alien races. They realized that it seemed to be the first time the teleportation light appeared in Dijiang's statue. In other words, in the other statue worlds, the first person had just been eliminated in Dijiang's statue. This made many alien races feel that it was strange and unbelievable. When the light of the teleportation gradually faded, the figure that was revealed caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Because the first person to be eliminated in Dijiang's statue was the Phoenix people's genius, Feng Bumming. Creek. Chapter 3347. Shifu's death. After seeing Feng Lilua being eliminated, none of the foreign races were too surprised. Shifu was too powerful. In their expectations, they thought that Feng Bumming was no match for Shifu. If they were to be eliminated, there was a high chance that Feng Bumming would be eliminated. The current situation was indeed similar to what they had guessed. It seems that the final winner of the Dijiang statue will be Shifu from the Corpse Ghoul clan. Actually, the moment Shifu entered the Dijiang statue, the victory was already decided. It's a pity for Feng Bumming. He also had a high chance of getting a spot, but he was screwed over by Long One. Long One is finished. The Phoenix people and the Corpse Ghoul clan won't let him go. After this Shaman Song gathering ends, I think he'll be dead for sure. Haha, Long One is an idiot. He's just a small clan, but he dares to provoke the Corpse Ghoul clan and the Phoenix people. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Many of the foreign races discussed animatedly. Their words could be said to be extremely belittling of Long One. The patriarch of the Corpse Ghoul clan, Serene, even smiled. The moment Feng Bumming came out, he knew that Shifu would definitely win. Feng Bumming must have been killed by Shifu. As for Long One, Serene had never taken him seriously. Long One was destined to be eliminated by Shifu. After this, the Corpse Ghoul clan would capture Long One and make him suffer a fate worse than death. How dare he kill a genius of the Corpse Ghoul clan? He must be tired of living. Feng Bumming's face was slightly pale. He lowered his head and returned to the Phoenix people's group. He immediately knelt in front of Feng Lilua and said, Bumming has disappointed the Phoenix Master. I'm willing to accept the punishment. Feng Lilua looked coldly at Feng Bumming. He had already calmed down. With his hands behind his back, he said coldly, I don't blame you. I can only blame Long One. He lured Shifu into the Dijiang statue. Although you've already advanced to the Master of Heaven, the gap between you and Shifu is still not small. It's understandable that you lost to Shifu. Feng Bumming wanted to say that he was defeated by Long One, but he held himself back. He knew very well that if he were to truly say that Long One had defeated him, Feng Lilua would not be so easy to deal with. Perhaps she would become enraged and kill him on the spot. In order to save his life, Feng Bumming remained silent and did not intend to tell the truth. Get up and come back to me. Once the Sorcerer Song conference is over, we'll go back. But before returning, he must capture that Long One. This kid ruined our plans. We must make him regret it. Feng Lilua said ruthlessly. Feng Bumming stood beside Feng Lilua and looked gloomily at the statue of Dijiang. Long One's strength is very strong. He somewhat doubts whether the corpse pup can take down Long One. How laughable. After all, Fu is a nearly invincible existence in the early stage of Lord All-Heaven. Even though Longwen can easily defeat me, it's not very possible for him to defeat Fu. This time, Fu will definitely be able to get rid of Longwen, Feng Bumming secretly said in his heart. Just as Feng Bumming was thinking about that, another teleportation light appeared on Dizhong's statue. Among the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues, only Dizhong's statue had yet to end the battle. Therefore, any changes to Dizhong's statue were closely watched by many foreign races. Corpse Ghoul races Corpse Inhuan, Phoenix People's Feng Liluo, and the other leaders of the 10 major races could not help but pay attention to the second figure that came out. The moment the second figure came out, the entire guarded ground fell silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Then the entire guarded ground was in an uproar. The clamor surged like a tide. This was because the second figure was none other than Fu, who everyone had placed their hopes on to win. At this moment, Fu's face was very ugly. He was extremely pale as he held his head with both hands and screamed miserably. In front of his forehead, cold sweat fell like rain, patter, patter, patter to the ground. No. Fu held his head and screamed miserably. Then, his head suddenly exploded. A terrifying sword intent soared into the sky and quickly dissipated in the air. Bang! Fu fell to the ground and became a headless corpse. He was completely dead. This unforeseen event completely shocked all the foreign races. The faces of the other 11 geniuses from the ancestral sorcerer statues also froze. They looked at the fallen Fu with solemn eyes. Their hearts were filled with doubts. Wu Xingyuan opened his eyes. He looked at Fu's corpse and frowned. His gaze was very complicated and doubtful. What's going on? Is Fu dead? Feng Bumming was stunned. Feng Liluo and the other Phoenix people were also stunned. What happened in front of them was simply too illogical. The Corpse Ghoul Race's team was in an uproar. Their leader, Inhuan's face completely froze. A terrifying murderous intent exploded from Inhuan's body. Then, Inhuan disappeared on the spot and appeared beside Fu's corpse. Who is it? Who killed Fu? Inhuan almost lost his mind. He raised his head and looked at Wu Wuxian. He questioned, High Priest, you have to give me an explanation. Didn't you say that it's impossible to truly die in the world of the ancestral sorcerer statues? But what's going on here? How did Fu die? Wu Wuxian frowned slightly. She also felt that it was a little strange. In the world of the ancestral sorcerer statues, once a contestant is killed, their divine soul will immediately be protected and teleported out. Generally speaking, it's impossible to die unless someone is good at divine soul attacks. They used a powerful divine soul to wipe out Fu's divine soul. That's why Fu died in the end. Wu Wuxian recalled the terrifying sword essence that soared into the sky after Fu's head exploded before he died. She was sure that it was a divine soul attack technique. This kind of secret technique was too rare. There were only a few in the entire primitive heavenly realm. She was surprised to see it here. Who could it be? To be able to use such a powerful divine soul attack technique, could it be that Longwen? Wu Wuxian thought of Longwen, but soon felt that her idea was unrealistic. Longwen was only from a small clan. How could he have such a secret technique? How dare he kill Fu? I'll make the murderer pay the price. High Priest, if I find the real murderer, I'll kill him. Don't stop me. Corpse Ima said fiercely. Wu Wuxian said coldly. The Sorcerer's Song gathering hasn't ended yet. You can't do it. If you insist on doing it, you'll be going against the Sorcerer tribe. After the Sorcerer's Song gathering, I won't care about your personal grudges. Corpse Ima's heart trembled. He finally regained his composure. He cupped his hands at Wu Wuxian and returned to the Corpse Ghoul tribe's team with Fu's body. However, Corpse Ima's gaze was fixed on Dizhong's statue. He was sure that the winner of Dizhong's statue should be the real murderer who killed Fu. After the Sorcerer's Song gathering ended, he would make the real murderer pay a heavy price. As for the surrounding foreign tribes, they were completely agitated. Many of them were guessing who had killed the Sherpu and who had such great ability. Bustling, what's going on? Feng Lilua asked sternly. Feng Bustling shuddered and said in a trembling voice, that Sherfu should have been killed by Long One. In fact, I was also eliminated by Long One. Only Long One can kill Sherfu. At this moment, Feng Bustling's heart still had lingering fear. He had not expected to be killed in the ancestral sorcerer statue world. If Long One had dealt with him the same way he dealt with Sherfu, he would have been a corpse by now. Chapter 3348. Memorize 69 books in 1 second. There are no pop-up windows. It's free to read. Killing intent. Feng Lilua's abnormality was not noticed by the other foreign races because their attention was all on Dizhong's statue. Feng Bumming had been eliminated, and Sherfu had been killed. The most powerful competitors in Dizhong's statue were all eliminated. Who would be the winner in Dizhong's statue? All the foreign races were looking forward to finding out who the winner was. Feng Luo regained her composure and said in a deep voice, Bumming, is that true? Feng Bumming's eyes flickered, and he sighed softly. Since Long One has the strength to eliminate me, he must be very powerful. He's definitely one of the best in Dizhong's statue. Other than him, I really can't think of anyone else. I really didn't expect that Long One, who's from a small clan, could actually defeat Bumming and Sherfu, two great geniuses. The secret of this boy must be beyond our imagination. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to cultivate such powerful strength with just a small clan background. Grand Elder Muyu said in a deep voice. We can't underestimate Long One. After the Sorcerer Song gathering ends, we shouldn't act rashly. We just need to watch the show slowly. This boy has offended the Corpse Ghoul clan. The Corpsine Swamp will find him sooner or later. At that time, we'll sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. We'll see what kind of powerful trump card Long One has. Then, we'll look for an opportunity to take down Long One completely and be the fisherman. Feng Lilua said indifferently. The Grand Elder and Third Elder looked at each other. Then they cupped their hands at Feng Lilua and nodded in agreement. Soon, 8 figures were sent out one after another from Dizhong's statue. These 8 figures were all geniuses from large clans. At that moment, they all lowered their heads and returned to their respective teams. At the same time, the news of Long One defeating Feng Bumming and Sherfu and obtaining the final victory spread among the foreign races. The news came from the mouths of the 8 geniuses from large clans who were sent out, so it should be true. This piece of news had all of the foreign races startled. They also did not expect that the final victor would actually be Long One. In other words, Sherfu's death was caused by Long One. Long One, you're dead for sure. First, you killed my Corpse Ghoul clan's Corpse-you, and now you've even killed Sherfu. If I, Corpsine Marsh, don't kill you, then I'm not worthy of being the patriarch of the Corpse Ghoul clan. Corpsine Ma's eyes were cold as he declared that anyone who got close to Long One would be the enemy of his Corpse Ghost clan. The Corpse Ghost clan would spare no effort to kill any enemy that threatened them. These words were obviously very intimidating. Many foreign races didn't dare to get close to Long One. After all, if they did, they would be going against a colossus like the Corpse Ghost clan. Boom! Suddenly, Dizhong's statue began to shake violently. Soon after, an incomparably huge, illusory figure of Dizhong shot out from the statue and hovered in the air. Everyone's gazes were fixated on the illusory figure of Dizhong. There, a figure stood upright like a long spear, looking down at the foreign race beings of the guarded ground. This figure was familiar to all of the alien races. It was Long One, who had caused such a huge commotion. Corpsine Marsh looked at Long One coldly, but he didn't make a move. He knew that the time wasn't ripe yet. After all, the Shaman Song gathering hadn't started yet. Moreover, he had his own plans. Long One had obtained one of the 12 quotas, so he had the right to enter the Ancestral Sorcerer's magical pond and receive the baptism of the Ancestral Sorcerer's power. The Ancestral Sorcerer's power was extremely important to the foreign races of the primitive heavenly realm. Not only could it increase one's cultivation realm, but it could also increase one's aptitude and talent. It could even cleanse one's muscles and marrow, allowing one's physical body to undergo a metamorphosis. Corpse Embark planned to wait for long, when to absorb the power of the ancestral sorcerer, then capture it and use a secret method to refine it into medicine. He would then consume it directly to improve his cultivation and strength. It could be considered as revenge for the Sure Fu, and he would also get a good return. It's really long one. We can't let him live. Feng Lilua's expression was ugly as she said angrily. He always felt that the dragon text must have chosen the statue where Feng bumming was on purpose. The dragon text was targeting the Phoenix clan. Thinking of this, Feng Lilua was burning with anger. With Feng bumming strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to obtain one of the quotas. However, it was all ruined by Long One. She was filled with hatred. This kid is really stronger than I expected. The Moon Wolf clan leader, Yi Tai-he, was also extremely surprised. As for Qin Ping, who was standing beside Yi Tai-he, a complicated look appeared in her beautiful eyes. She had never expected that the country bumpkin she had mentioned before would obtain a quota to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Moreover, this time, Longwen didn't obtain it by luck, but by strength. After all, Longwen had defeated Feng bumming and Shifu. She had nothing to say about this. This country bumpkin has some strength. However, compared to senior brother Tu Qian, he's still lacking. Qin Ping pursed her lips and muttered to herself. Her voice was very soft, and she seemed to lack confidence. Zhuan stepped on the illusory image of Di Jiang and looked around. He found that the remaining 11 quotas had been decided. The 11 quotas were Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiuran, Wu Wenbin, Tu Qian from the Moon Wolf clan, Wu Qiudong from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Xiu Kong from the Space-Time Beast clan, Xiang Gui from the Giant Turtle clan, Long Hui from the Dragon clan, Hu Ting from the Black Tiger clan, Crepe Star Sovereign and Jingshan. He nodded slightly at Crepe Star Sovereign and Jingshan, then stood quietly on the spot. He knew that he had successfully obtained a quota. Next, he would enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Wu Wuxian took a deep look at Zhuan. She now suspected that Longwen might have an extremely powerful spiritual attack technique. Previously, when Shifu's spiritual soul was shattered and his head was broken, the terrifying sword essence that was produced was still fresh in her memory. She was sure that Zhuowen's spiritual attack technique was more powerful than any spiritual attack technique she had ever seen. Thinking of this, Wu Wuxian was a little tempted. Longwen was just a small clan, but he had such a strong foundation. He must have obtained an extremely powerful inheritance. This inheritance was definitely not ordinary. It would be a waste for it to fall into Longwen's hands. Although Wu Wuxian thought so, she was not in a hurry. Longwen had offended too many people. She did not need to do anything. Naturally, someone else would. At that time, she only needed to play the role of Longwen's savior. When the time came, she would use her kindness to threaten Longwen. She did not believe that Longwen would not hand over his secrets. Therefore, Wu Wuxian was not in a hurry. Congratulations to the 12 of you for obtaining a quota to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Wu Wuxian said faintly. As soon as she said this, the foreign tribe geniuses standing around the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues were all excited. However, the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond will only open in 3 days. Everyone can gather here in 3 days. After saying this, Wu Wuxian returned to the main hall of the sorcerer tribe. Zhuan frowned and could not help but look at Jingshan. Back then, Jingshan had said that after the Sorcerer's Song Festival ended, they could immediately enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Why was it different now? When Zhuan saw the confused expression on Jingshan's face, his heart sank. He knew that Jingshan should not have known that this would happen. The moment Wu Wuxian left, Zhuan immediately sensed that several malicious gazes fell on him. Chapter 3349. Memorize 69 books in 1 second. No pop-up windows. Free to read. Getting restless in the guarded ground, most of the foreign tribes followed their respective teams and left the inner city. After all, The inner city was the core of the sorcerer tribe. If not for the sorcerer song gathering, even the big shots of the top 10 tribes would not be able to enter the inner city. Other than the disciples of the sorcerer tribe, the other tribes were not allowed to stay in the inner city for the next 3 days. They could only stay in the outer city. Even the top 10 tribes were not allowed to stay. Brother Long, be careful. The Phoenix people and the Corpse Ghoul tribe have their eyes on you. Other than that, there are other tribes in the dark who are eager to take action against you. I'll make a move first. After sending a message to Zhuowen, Jingshan left the inner city quietly and disappeared. Zhuowen's face darkened as he sighed. He did not blame Jingshan for leaving so quickly. He also knew that he and Jingshan only had an ordinary cooperative relationship. It was impossible for Jingshan to bear the risks with him. Brother Zhuo, it seems like we're being watched. Crepe Star Lord came to Zhuowen's side and said with a dark look, I know. Let's leave the inner city first. Zhuowen said helplessly as he looked at the disciples of the sorcerer tribe who wanted to chase them away. Zhuowen and Crepe Star Lord had just walked out of the inner city when they realized that there were many foreign tribes following them. Zhuowen's mind power was extremely strong. He scanned the area and realized that there were other tribes besides the Phoenix people and the Corpse Ghoul tribe. Zhuowen did not care about the foreign tribes following them. Instead, he brought Crepe Star Lord to a small inn in the outer city. At the counter of the inn, Zhuowen placed a storage bag on the counter and said to the innkeeper, Innkeeper, I'm buying this inn. The innkeeper wanted to reject Sumo's offer. However, when he saw the large number of heavenly origin crystals in the storage bag, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Hee, esteemed guest, this inn is yours from now on. The innkeeper kept the storage bag and said with a flattering smile, Inn, clear out all the guests in your inn, and I'll pay for your losses. Zhuowen continued. The shopkeeper hurriedly responded and moved swiftly. Soon, all the guests in the inn were cleared out. Although many guests were very dissatisfied, the shopkeeper had a group of powerful fighters under him. These guests did not dare to make a big deal out of it, so they could only swallow their anger and leave the inn. In less than 2 hours, the inn had already been emptied. The shopkeeper also took the initiative to leave with a group of hired thugs. Brother Zhuo, what are you? Purple Star Sovereign said in surprise. Brother Ziwei, I plan to set up a peerless formation outside this inn. If no one provokes me in these 3 days, then it's fine. But if anyone dares to provoke me, then I, Zhuowen, am not a pushover. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he spoke coldly. Crepe Myrtle Star Assembly shivered. He knew that Zhuowen was serious. He knew very well that with Zhuowen's level of formation skills, there were not many foreign race experts in the outer city who could invade this inn. Next, Zhuowen spent half a day setting up the 12 Heavenly Deities Slaughter Grand Formation, the 10 Directional Cloud Annihilation Grand Formation, the Heavenly Toad Limitless Grand Formation, and the Qingyuan Imperial Formation in the surroundings of the inn. Of these 4 formations, the first 3 were all heaven-piercing killing formations, and the 4th was a heaven-piercing defensive formation. These 4 heaven-piercing formations were all set up by Zhuowen in the past, and he had already learned them. Now, it was naturally much easier for him to set them up than before, and the speed of setting them up was also much faster. Zhuowen looked at the 4 formations around him, his eyes flashing. These 4 heaven-piercing formations complemented each other, and their power was unparalleled. If an expert in the late stage of heaven-piercing master broke into these 4 formations, he would not be able to escape. At that time, he would only be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. After Zhuo, when finished setting up the large arrays, he dispersed the 4 large arrays. Then, he refined an array flag and placed it in the Great World. This formation flag was the key to activating the 4 formations. As long as he activated the formation flag, the 4 formations would immediately be activated, and any living creatures within the formations would be killed. After doing all this, Zhuowen set up a concealment formation on the surface of the 4 formations. Then he entered the inn, chose a room at random, and began to meditate cross-legged. He planned to use these 3 days to completely condense the spirit sword essence that he had just separated. Moreover, in order to kill the Shifu, he used a spirit sword essence. Now, there was only one spirit sword essence left in his spirit that had not yet taken shape. The power of the spirit sword essence was somewhat beyond Zhuowen's expectations. In any case, the Fu was an expert who was about to enter the middle stage of heaven-piercing master, but he was actually killed in an instant by the spirit sword essence. Zhuowen's current limit was to condense 2 spirit sword essences. After all, the sword chi contained in the spirit sword essence was too terrifying. 2 spirit sword essences was a number that Zhuowen's spirit could barely bear. After he completely condensed this spirit sword essence, he planned to separate another spirit sword essence, so that his spirit would maintain the number of 2 spirit sword essences. When Zhuowen entered the inn to cultivate in seclusion, the various clans that came out of the inner city did not leave Witch God City. Instead, they were discussing something. This Long was quite bold. He knew that we had followed him, but he did not leave Witch God City directly. Instead, he found an inn and stayed there directly. Truly a newborn calf that is not afraid of a tiger. In the room, Feng Luo sneered as she read the news reported by her subordinates. Phoenix Master, do you want me to directly remove this Long one? Grand Elder Muyu asked in a deep voice. Now is not the time to make a move. It is not only us, the Phoenix people, who have their eyes on Long One. The other 10 clans, even the witch race, have their eyes on Long One as well. That Long One will definitely die, but we have to make a good plan. How can we stand out among the many covetous people and obtain the greatest benefits? Feng Liluo shook her head. Then we won't make a move first? Feng Bumming asked. Yes, let's not make a move first and see what the other clans do. We'll act according to the circumstances. Feng Liluo nodded. In the inn where the corpse race was located, Corpse Enmarsh said to his subordinate who was kneeling on the ground, "When will the Vice-Patriarch return?" This subordinate has received news that the Vice-Patriarch will arrive at Witch God City in 1 day. He is now rushing at full speed. The subordinate who was kneeling on the ground said respectfully, After the Vice-Patriarch arrives, go directly to the inn where Long One is and kidnap him without anyone noticing. Remember, I want him alive. Corpse Marsh said indifferently. The subordinate hurriedly nodded and left the room. Long One, I asked the Vice-Patriarch to personally capture you. It can be said that I think highly of you. Who asked you to offend our corpse race? After all, once you offend the corpse race, we will fight to the death. You can't escape from the palm of my hand. Corpse Marsh said coldly. Not only the corpse race and the Phoenix people, but many other clans in Witch God City were also restless. And the source of all the restlessness was Zhuowen. If the current situation in Witch God City was compared to a storm, then the place where Zhuowen was at was the source of the storm, which was also the eye of the storm. All the clan's actions were because of Zhuowen, the eye of the storm. Chapter 3350. The initiator inside the room of the inn, Zhuowen slowly stood up. His eyes abruptly opened, and an intense chill flickered within them. Within the range of his divine telekinesis, there were dozens of figures sneaking up on his inn. All of them were up to no good. Zhuowen also found that within the range of his divine telekinesis, there were subtle energy fluctuations. He knew that there should be more people hiding in the distance and could attack at any time. Creak. Crapestar Sovereign pushed the door open and entered. He looked at Zhuowen and said solemnly, Brother Zhuowen, you were right. There are people who can't hold back on the first day. Are we going to fight? No need. If we fight in Sorcerer God City, regardless of whether we take the initiative or not, we will be accused of breaking the rules of Sorcerer God City and attacking in private. We will not be able to escape punishment. Wu Wuxian of the Sorcerer Tribe only needs an excuse to take us down. If she finds this excuse, we will be guilty even if we are innocent. When the time comes, Wu Wuxian will definitely take us down immediately, Zhuowen said in a low voice. Then you mean? Crapestar Sovereign frowned and said hesitantly, I have set up 4 large formations in the inn. 3 of them are killing formations, and the other one is a defense formation. I will activate the defense formation and wait for 3 days. After 3 days, we will be able to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. When my cultivation has improved greatly in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, I will not be afraid of even the high priest of the sorcerer tribe. Zhuowen said. Crepe Myrtle Star nodded. Although he was surprised by Zhuowen's confidence, he also knew that it was not a wise decision to fight with these restless enemies who were hiding in the dark. Brother Crepe Star Sovereign, help me pay attention to all the invaders tonight and record which tribes they are from. I want to see which outsider clans are targeting me and trying to kill me. Zhuowen said with a cold look in his eyes. Swoosh! Swoosh! Several figures flashed across the sky like black lightning and soon landed not far away from the inn Zhuowen was staying at. These figures were all in disguise. Clearly, they didn't want to be recognized by the other outsiders or Zhuowen. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, dozens of attacks rained down on the inn like a meteor shower. That power was extremely vast. It was as if a seven-colored light had exploded. In the pitch-black night, it was like a blazing sun, dazzling and gorgeous. This noise startled many non-humankind beings in the surrounding area, who quickly fled from the area. The reason for that was because that attack was simply too frightening. The aftermath of the explosion was like a tide as it spread through the surroundings. The nearby buildings were all destroyed and turned into ruins. Some of the non-humankind beings who weren't strong enough and didn't react fast enough didn't even have the chance to scream before they were blown up into blood mist and dissipated in the air. They couldn't be more dead. It was obvious that such a powerful attack had been planned for a long time. There must be experts at the level of Master Heaven Ascension mixed in. Otherwise, this joint attack wouldn't be so fierce. Crackle. Originally, many of the non-humankind beings thought that the Zhuowen was staying and would definitely be reduced to ashes. Even Zhuowen, who was in the inn, would die under such an attack. However, everyone was surprised to find that the inn wasn't destroyed as they had expected. Instead, it was completely undamaged. This was because a light blue protective shield had appeared on the surface of the inn. It's a Master Heaven defensive formation. How many treasures does Longwen have? He even has a formation of this level. Damn it! An exasperated voice came from the darkness. Clearly, one of the ambushers hadn't expected that Zhuowen's residence would have such a powerful formation. Whoosh! Whoosh! Seeing that their attack didn't succeed, these figures didn't dare to stay any longer and left the place. They weren't afraid of Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star in the inn, but they were afraid of the rules of Sorcerer God City. After all, there were clear rules in Sorcerer God City that no one could attack without permission, let alone destroy wantonly. If someone violated the rules, they would be pursued by the experts of the Sorcerer tribe. In serious cases, they would even be killed without mercy. Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star stood side by side at the entrance of the inn. Their gazes were extremely cold. Neither of them were ordinary cultivators. Zhuowen's divine thought was originally stronger than that of ordinary cultivators, and Crepe Myrtle Star had obtained the inheritance of the undying bird. His strength was earth-shattering. In just a few breaths, the two of them quickly captured the aura of the dozens of figures. What made their faces turn ugly was that among the dozens of figures, there were 5 experts from the 10 great clans. The Ghoul tribe and the Phoenix people were needless to say. After all, when Zhuowen was at the Sorcerer Song Conference, he had a lot of enmity with these 2 clans. It was expected that the experts from these 2 clans would attack him. But in addition, there were 3 other experts from the 10 great clans involved. Zhuowen had already sensed that these 3 clans were the Mermaid tribe, the Black Tiger tribe, and the Dragon tribe. Furthermore, Zhuowen's senses hadn't been wrong. These 5 races had all sent out experts on the level of Master Transcendence. Were they trying to kill Zhuowen in one fell swoop and then divide his secrets? Not long after the sneak attackers left, a group of law enforcers from Sorcerer God City quickly arrived. The leader of this group of law enforcers was a thin, middle-aged man. His skin was red, and even his hair and beard were the same red. Who is it? How dare you attack and destroy wantonly in Sorcerer God City? You are simply courting death. The law enforcer roared angrily. Soon, he noticed the inn that was enveloped by the green jade array. It was the inn where Joan and Crepe Myrtle Star stayed. Within a radius of dozens of miles, all the other buildings were in ruins. However, this inn was intact and stood out among the crowd. A sky-reaching defensive array? The law enforcer soon noticed the array that was emitting a faint light around the inn. He came to the array and said in a deep voice, "Friends inside, remove the array and come out quickly. I have some questions for you." As soon as the law enforcer finished speaking, the green jade array gradually dissipated into powder. Joan and Crepe Myrtle Star walked out. "Oh, it's you. You're Long One and Crepe Myrtle Star, right?" The law enforcer was stunned and immediately blurted out their pseudonyms. Joan was not surprised. The Sorcerer's Song Conference was such a grand event. Basically, all the foreign clans in Sorcerer God City knew about it. After all, the two of them had won the quota to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. They were quite famous. Not many people in Sorcerer God City did not know them. Chapter 3351. Slander, fellow cultivator. The destruction of the surrounding buildings has nothing to do with us. Some people secretly launched a surprise attack on the inn where we are staying. That's why it's like this. The Purple Star Sovereign cupped his fists and said politely. The enforcer nodded and said indifferently, "In that case, do you know who participated in the surprise attack? It's best if you tell us their names." "We don't know their names, but I know which clans did it," Joan said. Which clans?" the enforcer asked. "The Phoenix people, the Ghoul clan, the Mermaid clan, the Black Tiger clan, and the Dragon clan." "Fellow cultivator, I think you'd better go to the residences of these 5 clans and ask them what they mean by this. Do they think that I, Long One, am easy to bully, so everyone wants to bully me?" Joan said coldly. The enforcer frowned when he heard that. The 5 clans that Joan had mentioned were all from the top 10 clans, and each of them was extremely powerful. Although these 5 clans were not as powerful as the Sorcerer clan, when the 5 clans joined forces, even the Sorcerer clan had to take them seriously. Not to mention your lowly status. Even your ability to slander is not small. You said that our 5 clans did such evil deeds. Do you have any evidence? If you don't, then you're slandering us. Suddenly, a gloomy voice came from afar. Joan and the enforcer turned their heads and saw the Ghoul clan's leader, Serene Marsh, slowly walking over with a group of people. Joan also found that behind Serene Marsh, in addition to the Ghoul clan's team, the 3 leaders of the Mermaid clan, the Black Tiger clan, and the Dragon clan were also following. Only the Phoenix people's team was missing. The leader of the Mermaid clan was called Yongshi. He was extremely tall and looked like a small giant. The leader of the Black Tiger clan was called Husha. His entire body was covered with a black mane, and he had a human body and a tiger head. He looked extremely ferocious. The leader of the Dragon clan was called Zonglong. He had a human body and a dragon head. He was the tallest among the group, and he looked like a crane in a flock of chickens. These 3 patriarchs all glared at Joie when like tigers eyeing their prey, their eyes filled with ridicule. "I am Yuan Gang, the vice commander of the law enforcement team. Greetings to the 4 clan heads. I really didn't expect that the commotion this time would actually draw the attention of the 4 patriarchs." Yuan Gang cupped his fists and spoke in a rather polite manner. "Our residence isn't far from here. Since there was such a huge commotion just now, it naturally attracted our attention, so we came together to take a look. But I never expected that someone would slander us as soon as we arrived here. It's simply disgraceful and arrogant to the extreme," Corpsine Marsh said indifferently. "Corpse clan leader, please be at ease. We will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. I won't let you suffer for nothing. Also, our president, Sir Yang Shi, is on his way. He should be here soon to uphold justice for you." Yuan Gang did not dare to be negligent. Zhuan's face turned a little ugly. From Yuan Gang's attitude, He could faintly feel that Yuan Gang was leaning towards Corpse Yinmarsh's side and was even trying to curry favor with Corpse Yinmarsh. Of course, I trust your Sorcerer Clan's law enforcement team. After all, our clan has been supporting your Sorcerer Clan for so many years. I believe that your Sorcerer Clan will definitely not wrongly accuse us. Otherwise, we will be bitterly disappointed, Corpse Yinmarsh said meaningfully. Yuan Gang cupped his fists again and lowered his head. Then, he looked at Zhuan and said, "Fellow Long One, you said that the surroundings were caused by the Corpse Clan and the other clans joining forces to attack you. I wonder if you have any evidence?" Zhuan looked on coldly and said in a deep voice, "They came quickly and left quickly. Moreover, they were all in disguise. I can only sense that the aura on their bodies belonged to the Corpse Clan and the other clans, but I didn't have time to do any evidence." "Ha! Long One, how dare you slander us without any evidence? How should we punish you?" Corpse Yinmarsh shouted coldly. "After all, we are one of the 10 great clans. We do things in an open and above-board manner. Why would we do something like a surprise attack? You are just a small clan, but your ability to slander others is not small. This kind of guy who is full of nonsense should be eliminated directly to prevent him from harming others in the future." Dragon Clan's patriarch, Zone Long, said contemptuously. Black Tiger Clan's patriarch, Hu Sha, and Merman Clan's patriarch, Yong Shi, also spoke out. They condemned Zhuan and suggested that it would be best to kill Long One on the spot. Zhuan's face turned uglier and uglier. He looked at the law enforcement team's deputy commander, Yuan Gang. He could see that Yuan Gang was in a dilemma and couldn't make up his mind. "Yuan Gang, what's going on? Why did you call me over in such a hurry?" Suddenly, a loud and clear voice broke the clamor of this place. A tall and burly sorcerer tribesman walked over with big strides. His eyes shone brightly like the moon. Zhuan's eyes narrowed the moment he saw the Sorcerer Clan expert. This was because he was no stranger to the Sorcerer Clan expert. He was actually the leader of the Sorcerer Clan who had appeared in the Starry Sky battlefield and planned to attack and occupy the Xian Mi Heavenly Domain. Back then, the Yangtang Alliance was very impressive. His cultivation had reached the middle stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. Moreover, due to his powerful Sorcerer Clan bloodline, his strength was much stronger than an ordinary Master of Heaven Ascension. He had once beaten the Eastern Sect Master, Tan Xinghua, who was also at the middle stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension, half to death. If Zhuan hadn't saved him with the Starry Sky Cannon, Tan Xinghua would have died at the hands of the Yangtang Alliance. This showed how powerful and terrifying the Yangtang Alliance was. "Greetings, Commander." Yuan Gang cupped his hands and said. The Yangtang Alliance nodded and then glanced at Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star. His gaze then fell on Corpse Yinmarsh and the others. "Brother Yangtang, long time no see. You are still as elegant as before." Corpse Yinmarsh cupped his hands towards the Yangshi Union in a rather friendly manner, while the 3 Lordess of Dragon Clan, Black Tiger Clan, and Merman Clan also cupped their hands towards the Yangshi Union in a rather polite manner. Although the Yangzhou combination's cultivation level was slightly weaker than theirs, it was still extremely powerful. Even if the Yangzhou combination was not a match for the late-stage Skirich Master, it was still extremely powerful. However, it would be extremely difficult for an ordinary expert in the later stage of Tongtian Lord to kill Yangshi. After all, Yangshi had the bloodline of the Sorcerer tribe, which was much stronger than an ordinary disciple of the Sorcerer tribe. It could be said that he was blessed by nature. Brother Corpse, Brother Tiger, Brother Dragon, and Brother Eternal Stone, it has indeed been a long time. If it weren't for the Wusong Conference, I wouldn't have been able to meet you all at once. I just don't know what exactly happened here. The Yang-tongued ensemble asked. The matter is very simple. It's like this. This ant from a small clan called Long One actually slandered us, saying that we destroyed a radius of 10 miles, and he has no evidence to prove that we did it. We are truly somewhat wronged. Corpse Yinmarsh sighed softly. How could there be such a thing? The Yangtang Alliance's eyes widened, and then he looked coldly at Zhuan. He said to Yuan Gang, Yuan Gang, These two people are so rebellious, slandering others without reason. They really don't put the sorcerer tribe in their eyes. I see that the surrounding area was destroyed by these two people, yet they still dare to slander others. Do they think we are fools? Capture them. Yuan Gang was stunned. He hesitated for a moment and said softly, Lord Yang Tung, these two people are the winners of the Wusong Conference. If we capture them now, shouldn't we? Chapter 33:52. Let's go. Yuan Gang covered his face in fear and did not dare to speak. He quickly ordered the enforcers behind him to take Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtlestar away. However, when the enforcers entered the inn, they were immediately blocked by a powerful energy barrier. They could not get close to Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtlestar. There is a great heaven defensive array. Are you a divine array master? The Yangtung Union was stunned when he saw that the enforcers were blocked outside. He looked at Zhuowen with bright eyes. Zhuowen sneered and shook his head. If I were a great heaven array master, I would not allow you to be so presumptuous. I obtained this array by accident. Someone happened to break into my seclusion place and activated the array. The Yangtung Union nodded slightly. He did not think that Long One was a great heaven array master. He must have obtained a great heaven array. The Yangtung Union was excited. There were not many great heaven array in the Eldritch Heavenly Domain, and its value was immeasurable. Long One, who came from a small tribe, had such an array. It was obvious that Long One had a lot of resources, and he must have other good things. Haha, you have committed such a serious crime, and you should be punished severely. However, if you hand over the great heaven array, you can make up for your mistakes, and your crime will be reduced, the Yangtung Union said. Corpse Ima and the others frowned when they heard this. They knew that things were not going well. They finally knew why the sorcerer tribe's head of enforcers had intervened. Wu Wuxian must have instructed him to do so, and his goal was Long Wen's secret. When Corpse Ima wanted to say something, the Yangtung Union immediately waved his hand and stopped them. Tribe leaders, you don't have to say anything. Long Wen has committed a serious crime, and I plan to lock him up in the sorcerer tribe's dungeon and let him receive the punishment he deserves. If you have any objections, feel free to raise them. The sorcerer tribe will handle this matter impartially. However, if all of you wish to plead for Zhuowen, then forget it. Although our sorcerer tribe is not as powerful as the alliance of all the other tribes, we are not pushovers either, the Yangtung Union said righteously. This, Inma and the others were upset. They knew that their plan had been taken away by the sorcerer tribe. However, they did not dare to say anything. After all, this was a tribe, the Yangtung Union. The Yangtung Union to do things. The Yangtung not only do it Union, but also was not to Union Ima and the Yangtung Yang and Union Ima. Seeing that Corpse Inzhou and the others were silent, the Yangtung combination showed the attitude of a victor. Then he looked at Zhuowen, who was inside the jade flourishing array, and said, Long One, now you know how sinful you are. Now release this formation and surrender. I, the Yangtung Union, promise you that I will definitely plead for leniency with the Sacred Master. At that time, I will naturally reduce your punishment. Ima Union Studio, Go Union Y Union. Ima Ibo Union. Not Ima the Yangjiao glanced at Zhuowen from the corner of his eyes and said, Then you will be punished even more. Once this formation of yours is broken, what awaits you will be the highest punishment of our witch race. You will definitely die. I think you are a smart person. You are alone, and our Wu tribe is a famous giant in the untainted land. You should make the right choice. Was this your idea or Wu Wuxian's? Zhuowen frowned. The Grand Priestess doesn't know about it yet, but she will find out soon. Once you surrender, the Grand Priestess will judge you. After all, you are one of the 12 candidates for the Song of the Witchcraft Gathering, the Yangjiao said calmly. Good. I'll go with you to see the High Priest, but before that, I have a condition. Zhuowen could already tell that he was the target of the combination of sheep and tongue. He had to go tonight, even if he didn't want to, so he agreed very quickly. Tell me, as long as it's not too much, I'll agree to it. The Yang Jiao was overjoyed. He was surprised that Longwen agreed so quickly. This is my friend, Zi Xing. He is also one of the 12 candidates for the Song of the Witchcraft Gathering. This accident was caused by me, and it has nothing to do with him. 3 days later, he will enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. You have to promise not to stop him, Zhuowen said. I can't make this decision. The Grand Priestess has to make the decision. The Yang Jiao said, then inform Wu Wuxian now. If he doesn't agree, we will resist until the end tonight. Even if we have to die together, Zhuowen said coldly. The Yang Jiao frowned. In the end, he took out his communication jade talisman and sent a message to Wu Wuxian. After a while, the Yang Jiao received the message through his communication jade talisman. The Yang Jiao put away his communication jade talisman and said in a low voice, the Grand Priestess promises that as long as you follow us to the dungeon of the witch race, your friend's quota will not be taken away. Zhuowen patted Crepe Myrtle's star's shoulder and said softly, Brother Crepe Myrtle, it's all up to you now. If we can survive these 3 days, you and I will be saved. After saying that, Zhuowen walked out of the array and walked towards the Yang Jiao. And this array, aren't you going to take it and hand it over? The Yang Jiao looked at the green garden array around the inn and said with a greedy gaze, Haha, I'm afraid that some people with ulterior motives will harm my friend in these 3 days. This array is his last line of defense. You can't take it away. Zhuowen said indifferently. The Yang Jiao's face darkened, but he didn't say anything. After all, the defensive array belonged to Zhuowen. Without Zhuowen's permission, he couldn't take it back. The only way was to destroy it. Let's go, Zhuowen said. The Yang Jiao nodded. Just as he was about to leave with Zhuowen, Corpse Yin Shi and the others couldn't sit still anymore. They had plotted together, sent out many experts, and caused such a big commotion tonight. It was all because of Zhuowen. To be more precise, it was because of the secret on Zhuowen's body. But now, the Yang Jiao had easily taken Zhuowen away with just a few words. How could they be willing to accept this? Brother Yang Jiao, Longwen will kill our tribe's genius Shifu in Wusong. We, Corpse Yin Shi, will definitely take revenge for this blood feud. You can't take him away like this. Corpse Yin Shi said, Brother Inga is right. This Longwen is unfilial. He almost killed the genius of our tribe, Feng Bumming. He must give us an explanation. Feng Luo came out from the shadows and spoke. The Dragon Tribe's patriarch, Zhong Long, the Black Tiger Tribe's patriarch, Hu Sha, and the Merman Tribe's patriarch, Yong Shi, also said that they wanted Longwen to give them an explanation. Of course, the reasons they gave were all nonsensical and fabricated. The Yang Jiao hesitated. The strength of these 5 tribes was too strong. If they joined forces, even the Sorcerer Tribe would be afraid. Although he was the Sorcerer Tribe's head of law enforcement, he couldn't be considered the true decision-maker of the Sorcerer Tribe. Under the pressure of the 5 tribe leaders, he was at a loss and panicked. Everyone, give me some face. Longwen broke the rules in Sorcerer God City and should be dealt with by the Sorcerer Tribe. As for the grudge between you and Longwen, I will give you an explanation after this. I won't let you suffer. A distant voice rang in the ears of the many foreign tribes present. It was like a huge bell, rolling and ringing. It was the voice of the Sorcerer Tribe's Grand Priest, Wu Wuxian. Corpse Yin Shi and the others fell silent. They looked at each other and finally nodded. Chapter 3353. Sorcerer Tribe, Sacred Lord Myrtle's Star watched as the Yang Tongue combination took Zhuowen away. His gaze was calm as he muttered to himself. I didn't expect that in the end. I still had to use the most helpless method. It's all because I'm too weak. As he spoke, Myrtle Star opened his right hand. On his right palm, an insignificant speck of dust lay quietly. After putting away the speck of dust, Myrtle Star strode into the inn. Brother Inma, are we going to let Zixing go just like that? Zixing was able to obtain one of the 12 spots in the Sorcerer Song Conference. I'm afraid he's not simple. After all, he was born in a small clan. To be able to rise in the Sorcerer Song Conference, he's definitely not simple. Yongshur, the leader of the merman tribe, said in a deep voice. Corpse Inma shook his head and said, "We're still in the Sorcerer God City. It's not appropriate for us to make a move. After all, the defensive formation that Zhuan left behind is not simple. We won't be able to break it in a short period of time. When the time comes, the Sorcerer tribe might make a move." Brother Ima is right. We can't touch Zixing now. After leaving the Sorcerer God City, the Sorcerer tribe won't interfere anymore. We'll make a move then. Feng Lilua said. Let's go to the inner city. Since Long Wen was brought into the inner city, Wu Wuxian will definitely appear. Let's have a good talk with Wu Wuxian about the distribution of spoils. Corpse Inma looked in the direction of the inner city and said coldly. In the inner city, in the Sorcerer tribe's main hall, two figures sat opposite each other in a very spacious room. The dome of the room was open air. The people sitting in a room only needed to raise their heads to see the stars in the night sky. One of the two figures was the Sorcerer tribe's sacred lord. He was also one of the top experts in the entire Eldritch Heaven domain. It was said that the Sorcerer tribe's sacred lord's cultivation had reached the peak of the heaven-reaching master realm. His strength was monstrous, and he intimidated the universe. In front of the Sorcerer tribe's sacred lord, Corpse Ima and a group of late-stage heaven-reaching masters were completely useless. They were as insignificant as ants. But now, the holy master of the Sorcerer tribe, who stood at the peak of the primitive heavenly realm, was sitting upright and still, looking at the figure sitting opposite him with fear. This figure sat casually with a bare upper body. It was actually as thin as a match, and its skin was dry and shriveled. It was like a dried corpse, and there were actually tufts of green hair growing on this dried corpse. It was neither human nor ghost, and it was extremely strange. If Zhuan was here, he would definitely recognize this figure. It was the green-furred corpse that he had released from the seal. "Senior, you've been sitting here for several days. May I know what you're here for?" The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe asked carefully. Back then, this green-furred mummy had appeared in his bedroom like a ghost. At that time, he was furious and brazenly attacked. However, he was knocked down to the ground by this green-furred corpse with a single move, and his battle prowess temporarily dissipated. This made him inexplicably shocked. He knew that this green-furred mummy's strength was far greater than his, so he was both shocked and afraid of this green-furred mummy. He did not dare to be negligent in any way. What made the Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe feel even more strange was that after the green-furred mummy had taught him a lesson, it had only sat there motionlessly like a stone statue. Although this green-furred mummy was like a mummy when it was motionless, the Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe did not dare to leave. Who knew if this green-haired mummy would suddenly come back to life and attack him, directly killing him? "I heard that your Sorcerer tribe has 3 ancestor sorcerer corpses. Is that true?" The green-furred mummy suddenly opened its eyes and looked at the Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe calmly. "Yes, Senior. May I know why you mentioned this?" The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe felt his scalp go numb as he asked. I want those 3 ancestor sorcerer corpses." The green-furred mummy said calmly. "What?" The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe's expression changed abruptly. "What? Do you have a problem with that?" The green-furred mummy looked at the Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe unkindly. The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe fell silent, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. "Senior, those 3 ancestor sorcerer corpses were passed down from our ancestors. You must not touch them. If you touch them, the Sorcerer tribe will be in big trouble." The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe said in a trembling voice. "I don't care if they were passed down from your ancestors. If you don't want to hand over the 3 ancestor sorcerer corpses, that's fine. After I uproot the Sorcerer tribe, I will find the 3 ancestor sorcerer corpses that you have hidden." The green-furred mummy said with a murderous look. "Don't. Senior, don't do anything rash. I can give you the 3 ancestor sorcerer corpses, but it will take some time. Not long ago, the Sorcerer Song Festival ended and 12 geniuses need to enter the Ancestor Sorcerer Magical Pond for baptism. After the baptism, I will bring you to the Ancestor Sorcerer Magical Pond. How about that?" The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe sighed. Okay, I will wait for a while more. Anyway, I am not in a hurry. The green-furred mummy said and closed its eyes again. It was as if it had turned into a lifeless mummy. The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe smiled bitterly. He was really unlucky to have met such a shameless expert. Suddenly, a beautiful figure quietly entered the room. Grand Priest, what's wrong? The moment the Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe saw the beautiful figure, his previous weakness disappeared and he exuded a powerful aura. The beautiful figure was the Grand Priest of the Sorcerer tribe, Wu Wuxian. She knelt on one knee and stole a glance at the green-furred mummy that was pretending to be dead. Then, she said, Saint Lord, Longwen has been wreaking havoc in Sorcerer God City. Now that he has been caught, I am here to report to you. Would you like to go with me to judge him? I don't need to show up for such a small matter. You can handle it. The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe said impatiently. You said that his name is Longwen? The moment the Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe finished speaking, the green-furred mummy that was pretending to be dead suddenly jumped up and asked the Grand Priest. Wu Wuxian was shocked. She had not noticed when the green-furred mummy had come to her side. How powerful must he be to be able to get close to her without anyone noticing? If the green-furred mummy had wanted to kill her, she would have been a corpse just now. He is a disciple of a small clan who is participating in the Sorcerer Song Conference. His name is Longwen, and he has violated the rules of Sorcerer God City. We're going to judge him now, Wu Wuxian said hurriedly, her voice trembling slightly. Oh, Longwen is not a human? The green-furred mummy asked in surprise. You must be joking. If he is a human, he would not be able to participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference. He would not even be able to move around in the primitive sky realm. How could he be a human? Wu Wuxian said with a forced smile. Oh, I see. Then take me to your trial as well. I am interested in Longwen and want to see what he is like, the green-furred mummy said. Wu Wuxian and the Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe looked at each other. They were confused. Why would this powerful expert be interested in a disciple of a small clan? Could it be that he knew Longwen? Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and take me with you. The green-furred mummy said impatiently. The Saint Lord of the Sorcerer tribe was helpless. He said to Wu Wuxian, Grand Priest, let's go with them. Chapter 33:54. Carve Upwin followed behind, he Jish, and entered the main hall of the Sorcerer tribe. The main hall of the Sorcerer tribe was indeed magnificent. The decorations in the hall were extremely luxurious and spacious. He Jish did not bind Zhuan's hands and feet like a prisoner. He was very proud of himself. Longwen was just a disciple of a small tribe. He Jish was a middle-stage expert of the Sorcerer tribe. If Longwen wanted to escape, he could suppress him with a flip of his hand. After entering the main hall, Zhuan realized that there was another group of people behind him. This group of people was Corpse Inha and the others who had followed him. He Jish naturally noticed Corpse Inha and the others. However, he did not bother with them. Instead, he stood silently in front of the stairs in the main hall, waiting for the Grand Priest to appear. Soon, 3 figures walked out from the depths of the main hall and stood on the throne at the top of the stairs. What surprised He Jish and the others was that not only had the Grand Priest Wu Wuxian come, but the Holy Master of the Sorcerer tribe had also come. In addition, there was a green-haired mummy who stood calmly in front of the Holy Master of the Sorcerer tribe and Wu Wuxian. Then, under the stunned gazes of He Jish and the others, the green-haired mummy sat on the throne casually. Usually, only the Holy Master of the Sorcerer tribe had the right to sit on the throne. What surprised them even more was that the Holy Master of the Sorcerer tribe was not angry. Instead, he revealed a fawning expression. This caused a stir in everyone's hearts. They were all guessing who the green-haired mummy was and why the Holy Master of the Sorcerer tribe was fawning over him. The moment Zhuan saw the green-haired mummy, he was stunned. He was all too familiar with the green-haired mummy. Back then, he had obtained the Panga banner from the ominous Meridian. At the same time, he had released the green-haired mummy that had been suppressed by the Panga banner. The green-haired mummy's strength was terrifying. Back then, it had been suppressed for too long, and its strength had been reduced to less than 10%. However, it had still been able to kill him with one hand. If he had not relied on the Panga banner back then, he would have been killed by the green-haired mummy. And now, Zhuowen discovered that the aura of this green-furred corpse was even more unfathomable. He had also heard of how powerful the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master was. He knew that the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master was a supreme expert at the peak of sky piercing. However, in front of the green-furred mummy, he was timid and careful. It could be seen that the green-furred mummy was much stronger than the Holy Lord of the Sorcerer Tribe. Zhuowen knew that the green-haired mummy must have fully recovered during the time he was separated from it. Otherwise, the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe would not be so afraid of it. Moreover, the green-furred mummy had screwed him over in the past. The main reason why the Eastern Emperor Tai had appeared and controlled the 8 heavens was because the green-furred corpse had taken something from the 9-story pagoda, causing the seal on the Eastern Emperor Tai to break. This guy was a troublemaker. Now that he appeared in front of him, Zhuowen had to try his best not to be recognized by this guy. The green-haired mummy sized up Zhuowen. At first, it was puzzled, but soon the smile on its face grew wider and wider. This is a criminal of the Sorcerer Tribe. You can judge him. I'll just watch. The green-furred mummy said flatly. The Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe nodded and gave Wu Wuxian, the Grand Priest, a look indicating for her to begin. Long One, you knowingly broke the law and destroyed the buildings within a 10-mile radius of the Sorcerer God City. You even injured many of our friends. Do you know your crime? Wu Wuxian said in a low voice. I know my crime. Zhuowen only wanted to get away from the green-furred mummy as soon as possible, so he did not quibble and admitted his crime without hesitation. Wu Wuxian was stunned. She did not expect Long Wen to admit his crime so quickly. Since you know your crime, I won't make things difficult for you. Put this guy in the dungeon first. Wu Wuxian gave a Yangjiao a look. Originally, she had wanted to ask Zhuowen to hand over his spiritual ring in the main hall of the Sorcerer Tribe. She was sure that there were many heaven-level elixirs and other good things in a spiritual ring. Heaven-level elixirs were much rarer in the untainted heavenly realm than in the Xianmi heavenly realm. Even the Sorcerer Tribe did not have many heaven-level elixirs, and some big clans did not even have any. Since Zhuowen could easily take out transcending heaven-grade divine pills to trade, he definitely had a lot of such divine pills on him. What Wu Wuxian coveted even more was Zhuo Wen's soul sword intense secret technique. That kind of secret technique was even rarer than a transcendent divine pill. She wouldn't let it go. However, the green-furred mummy was an outsider, so she could not say these words now. Once Long Wen was locked up in the dungeon, she would seize Zhuo Wen's spirit ring and carefully examine it to see if there were any other secrets in it. Wait, the green-furred mummy suddenly said. The Yangjiao who had wanted to take Zhuowen away, could not help but stop and look at Wu Wuxian and the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe to ask for their opinion. Senior, what do you want? The Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe asked cautiously. I'm quite interested in this boy. Why don't you give him to me? The green-furred mummy said casually. The Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe frowned and looked a little unhappy, but he did not dare to offend the green-furred mummy. Wu Wuxian also knew how terrifying the green-furred mummy was. After thinking for a while, she said, If you're interested, we can give him to you. However, this boy took something very important to the Sorcerer Tribe and hid it in his spiritual ring. We can give him to you, but we want to take his spiritual ring. Wu Wuxian said, I'm only interested in this boy. You can do whatever you want with the spiritual ring. The green-furred mummy did not care. Thank you, Senior. Wu Wuxian smiled and cupped his hands. Then he rushed to Zhuo Wen's side and took the spirit ring from Zhuo Wen's hand. Then he carried Zhuo Wen to the green-furred mummy and handed him over. I'll take this boy back. The green-furred mummy took Zhuo Wen out of the hall and into the depths of the hall. After the green-furred mummy left, the holy master of the sorcerer tribe, sent a message to Wu Wuxian and asked, "High priest, does this boy's spiritual ring really have a large number of divine elixirs and powerful divine soul secret skills?" It's true. This boy is just a disciple of a small tribe, but he was able to defeat Shi Fu in foam bumming. He has a big secret. In addition, this boy took out a divine elixir at the middle stage of divine elixir to trade with Xing Yuan at the trade fair. From this, it can be seen that this boy's foundation is not to be underestimated. This is also the reason why I tried so hard to take his spiritual ring. However, this boy's spiritual ring has an extremely powerful restriction. This restriction is very complicated and troublesome. I'm afraid it will take me at least 4 or 5 days to break it. Wu Wuxian said in a low voice. That's good. You could decide this matter. When the time comes, I won't treat you badly. The holy master of the sorcerer tribe nodded and turned to enter the depths of the hall. After the holy master of the sorcerer tribe left, Wu Wuxian looked at Corpse Inma and the others below and said, "Everyone, there's a very powerful restriction in the spiritual ring. I will need at least 4 or 5 days to break it. After I break it, all of you will have a share. If you are worried, you can follow me during this time." Haha, this is a serious matter. I plan to follow the high priest. Corpse Inma smiled and cupped his hands. The 3 tribe leaders of the Dragon Tribe, Mermaid Tribe, and Black Tiger Tribe also expressed Corpse Inma's intention. However, Feng Luo of the Phoenix people was willing to give up this time's share. She hoped that the high priest would give foam bumming a place to enter the wizard's magical pond. Chapter 33:55 The 5 Decay of Heaven and Main in the Dark Room. The green-haired mummy sized up Zhuowen. You're interesting. With the body of a mere human, you dare to enter the Eldritch Heaven realm. You're quite bold. Your concealment technique is also interesting. You even fooled the Saint Master of the Sorcerer Tribe. Unfortunately, you can't fool me. The green-haired mummy laughed strangely. Zhuowen looked calm. When the green-haired mummy saw him, he knew that the mummy had recognized him. It was his human original body that appeared in front of the green-haired mummy. He relied on the powerful concealment technique of the undying bird to cover his aura completely. This was how he managed to fool the high priest and the others. As for the Pangu's sacred body avatar, he placed it in the macro world. The macro world turned into a speck of dust and was placed on Purple Star Sovereign. The great world was Zhuo Wen's secret. This kind of space was not an ordinary storage space, but a world that gave birth to its own laws. The living beings in this world were completely self-sufficient, which was extremely rare. It was because of the macro world that Zhuowen used the trick of injuring himself to let his human original body enter the main hall of the sorcerer tribe with the Yangshi couple and admit his guilt. He knew that as long as his avatar could advance smoothly and enter the place where Pangu had fallen to obtain the other part of the legacy, he would not be afraid of the sorcerer tribe. As for his human original body, he was not worried. Neither the high priest Wu Wuxian nor the Saint Lord of the sorcerer tribe knew that Zhuowen was a powerful divine array master at the heaven level. If they had known, they would not have been so careless as to just lock him up in the dungeon. This was because he had already prepared a temporary teleportation formation. As long as Wu Wuxian noticed that something was wrong with the spiritual ring, he would immediately use the temporary teleportation formation to teleport directly to the inn where the 4 formations were set up. However, there was a variable, and that was the green-haired mummy in front of him. Zhuowen knew that when Wu Wuxian mentioned that the Holy Lord of the Sorcerer Tribe was receiving an important guest, he was probably talking about this green-haired mummy. "Did you call me here just to tell me this?" Zhuowen's gaze was calm as he asked indifferently. "That's not it. You came to the Sorcerer Tribe for the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses hidden by the Sorcerer Tribe, right?" The green-haired mummy laughed. Zhuowen frowned slightly and sighed. "So what if I am? Now that I've already failed and been captured here, I'm no different from a prisoner. There's no way I can come into contact with the corpses of the 3 grand shamans." "Hee hee, I remember that you have a doppelganger. Right now, You only have your original human body in front of me, but your doppelganger isn't here. The green-haired mummy sneered. Sigh. You also know that the great desolate heavenly realm is full of difficulties. My clone fell in the great desolate heavenly realm, and now only this human body is left. Zhuo sighed. His doppelganger entering the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond was a very important part of his plan. He would never allow the green-haired mummy to ruin it. Green Hat, you tricked me on purpose, didn't you? You took away the bead on the 9-story pagoda, drew out the East Emperor Tai, and involved the entire 8 heavens in a catastrophe. What's that bead? Zhuo didn't want to be entangled in the issue of his doppelganger, so he changed the topic. Don't call me Green Hat anymore. If you dare to call me that again, I'll kill you directly. The green-haired mummy said in an unfriendly tone. Zhuo shrugged and stopped calling the green-haired mummy by his nickname. Instead, he continued, the holy master of the sorcerer tribe should be at the peak of the sky-reaching master, right? He's so respectful in front of you. Could it be that you've broken through the heavens? The green-haired mummy sneered and said, ignorant fool, you're not doing anything. Let me tell you clearly, I'm still a distance away from breaking through the heavens. You're not breaking through the heavens, but you're stronger than the peak of the sky-reaching master? Then what's your cultivation level? Zhuo asked with a frown. Haha, although the peak of the sky-reaching master is only 1 step away from breaking through the heavens, it's as difficult as ascending to the heavens to take that step. Let me tell you the truth. If the peak of the sky-reaching master wants to break through the heavens, they have to go through 5 extremely terrifying disasters, and these disasters are usually called the 5 decay of heaven and man. Only by truly overcoming the decay of heaven and earth and breaking the shackles of heaven and earth can one be qualified to become the true master of heaven and earth and then step into the heaven-breaking realm. The so-called decay is the exhaustion of the mind, the deterioration of the internal organs, skin, flesh, blood, and bones, the heavenly Tao, the collapse of spirituality, and extreme pain. In the end, one will be reduced to being neither human nor ghost. The 5 decay of heaven and man is also called half-step into the heaven-breaking realm. However, every time a cultivator passes a decay tribulation, their strength will also undergo a tremendous change. If they can't pass it, they'll definitely die. Although the holy master of the sorcerer tribe is at the peak of the sky-reaching master, he hasn't even passed a single decay tribulation. So how can he be compared to me? Oh, the peak of the sky-reaching master has to go through the 5 decay of heaven and man to reach the heaven-breaking realm. May I know how many decay tribulations you've passed? Zhuo asked curiously. You're not qualified to ask about my cultivation level. You only need to know that I'm stronger than the holy master of the sorcerer tribe, and much stronger. However, the sorcerer tribe is the direct descendant of the sorcerer tribe after all, and their foundation is extremely deep. The sorcerer tribe doesn't only have the holy master of the sorcerer tribe, the green-haired mummy said lightly. The sorcerer tribe also has half-step into the heaven-breaking realm? Zhuo asked with a frown. Of course there are. In the primitive heavenly realm, all the races with some foundation and a long history have half-step into the heaven-breaking realm powerhouses, and the human race in the Xianmi heavenly realm also has some half-step into the heaven-breaking realm. However, these powerhouses are basically not in these 2 heavenly realms, but hidden in the sky-reaching secret realm. That a good place? I only heard about it recently. The green-haired mummy laughed strangely. Sky-reaching secret realm? Zhuo's eyes flashed. He really didn't expect that under the starry sky, there really were powerhouses at the peak of the sky-reaching secret realm. Moreover, there were many of these powerhouses, but they were all in the sky-reaching secret realm. Although this secret was a little shocking, Zhuo felt that it was reasonable after thinking about it. Since Pangu created the world, this starry sky had existed for too long. After such a long time, countless creatures had multiplied and cultivated, and generation after generation of peerless geniuses had naturally appeared. These geniuses couldn't have all died with the passage of time, and there must be some powerhouses left behind, and now he knew that these powerhouses were all in the sky-reaching secret realm. The sky-reaching secret realm was the world of the sky-reaching master, and the lowest threshold was the sky-reaching master, which showed that this world was definitely not simple. Moreover, Zhuowen also guessed that Pangu's strength should have been at the 5th decay of the celestial being 5 decay, very close to the heaven-breaking realm. There was no need to doubt Pangu's strength. Even if all the half-step into the heaven-breaking realm in this starry sky worked together, they still wouldn't be a match for Pangu. Moreover, Zhuowen had received Pangu's inheritance, and he knew that Pangu's bloodline was innate. Back then, Pangu was born from the chaos, and his strength was close to the heaven-breaking realm as soon as he was born. He broke open the chaos and created the starry sky. If Pangu hadn't been destroyed by the chaos, he would have probably been a supreme powerhouse of the heaven-breaking realm for countless years, and he would have broken open this starry sky and left long ago. Chapter 33:56, The Ancestral Sorcerer's Magical Pond. You didn't just take me back from the sorcerer tribe just to tell me this, did you? What do you want? Zhuowen looked at the green-haired mummy and asked. The green-haired mummy sneered and said, What do I want? It's simple. I want the Panga banner on you. Zhuowen sneered and said, The Panga banner has merged with me. You want the Panga banner? Huh. The green-haired mummy said calmly, I have a way to separate your divine soul from the Panga banner, but it will take a lot of time and energy. I'll deal with you after I get the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses from the sorcerer tribe. After saying that, the green-haired mummy waved his right hand, and green vines grew out from under Zhuowen's feet. They wrapped around Zhuowen's limbs and tied him to the giant pillar behind him. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He could feel that the power of the green vines was extremely powerful and terrifying. Even his doppelganger, who had cultivated the Panga's sacred body, would not be able to break free from the green vines, let alone his original body of the human race. You'd better stay here obediently for the time being. After saying that, the green-haired mummy slowly walked out of the room. In an inn in the outer city of the sorcerer god city, Zhuowen's doppelganger, who was dressed in black, suddenly turned pale. Brother Zhuo, what's wrong? Crepe Star Sovereign, who was sitting cross-legged opposite Zhuowen, sensed that Zhuowen's aura was fluctuating, so he could not help but ask. No, it's just that my human body ran into some trouble in the sorcerer tribe hall. But it doesn't matter. As long as my doppelganger can make further progress in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, these problems can be solved, Zhuowen said in a low voice. Yes, we can only wait for 3 days. Crepe Star Sovereign nodded. Time flew by, and 3 days passed quickly. On this day, the inner city was bustling with noise and excitement, because it was the day that the 12 geniuses selected by the Sorcerer's Song Council would enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Crepe Star Sovereign slowly stood up as Zhuowen's avatar opposite him entered the Great World. As for the Great World, it turned into a speck of dust that adhered to Crepe Star Sovereign's body. Meanwhile, Crepe Star Sovereign shot out like a bolt of lightning. The moment Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign flew out, divine wills swept over from every corner of Magus God City. These divine wills were extremely hostile. Crepe Myrtle Star naturally sensed the brazen divine wills. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile as he ignored them. He knew that since he was still in Sorcerer God City, the races that were eyeing him covetously would not dare to attack him openly. However, things would be different after he left the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond and left the Sorcerer God City. At that time, there would definitely be many experts of the foreign races following him because they guessed that he had secrets. After all, Crepe Myrtle Star was only a disciple of a small clan. He did not have a powerful backer or background. A soft persimmon like him was the favorite target of others. Soon, Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign entered the inner city and arrived at the guarded ground where the sorcerer tribe's main hall was located. At this moment, the other 10 geniuses who had entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond had all arrived. These 10 people were Wu Xin, Wu Shiran, and Wu Wenbin of the Sorcerer tribe, Wu Qiutong of the Nine-Tailed Fox tribe, Tu Qian of the Moon Wolf tribe, Xiu Kong of the Space-Time Beast tribe, Xiang Gui of the Giant Tortoise tribe, Hu Tung of the Black Tiger tribe, Long Hui of the Dragon tribe, and Jing Shan of the Dragon tribe. Jing Shan's expression did not look too good. She already knew that Long Wen had been captured and brought to the Sorcerer tribe's main hall. His fate was uncertain. She originally wanted to work with Long Wen to go to the place where Panga fell. However, she did not expect such a turn of events. This made Jing Shan sigh in her heart and blame Long Wen for being so careless. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign also saw another person who was not supposed to be here. It was Phone Bumming of the Phoenix people. At this moment, Phone Bumming was arrogant and his eyes were filled with excitement. His slot was simply a gift from the heavens. Aha, Long Wen, Long Wen. It's really karma and retribution. You cheated me out of a spot, and now this spot has finally fallen into my hands, hasn't it? Phone Bumming laughed heartily in his heart, feeling indescribably comfortable. Thinking of this, Phone Bumming cast a sidelong glance at Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. After entering the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, if there was a chance, he planned to kill Long Wen's accomplice, Zixing, to vent his anger. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's performance in the Sorcerer Song Gathering had always been average. Therefore, the other cultivators here thought that although Zixing's strength was not bad, there was still a gap between them and Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. At this moment, Wu Wuxian walked out of the Sorcerer tribe's main hall. Behind him were Corpse Ian Marsh, Tiger Sha, and the other 3 clan leaders. These 4 clan leaders had voluntarily stayed 3 days ago to watch Wu Wuxian break Zhuowen's spiritual ring. However, the restrictions in the spiritual ring were very complicated. There were layers upon layers, as if there was no end to them. In 3 days, Wu Wuxian had only managed to break 1/3 of them. Now that the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond was opening, Wu Wuxian could only give up on breaking the restrictions and focus on opening the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. She planned to continue breaking the restrictions after the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond was closed. Corpse Ian Marsh and the other 3 clan leaders also knew how difficult it was to break the restrictions on the surface of the spiritual ring. Even a formation expert like Wu Wuxian had difficulty breaking them. They knew that even if they obtained the spiritual ring, it would be useless if they could not break it. Now, they could only rely on Wu Wuxian. Everyone, congratulations on standing out in the Sorcerer Song Gathering. Now, I will open the entrance to the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Once you enter, you will be baptized by the power of the ancestral sorcerer. However, there is a time limit. You can only stay for 10 days at most. After 10 days, the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond will naturally teleport you out. As Wu Wuxian spoke, he took out a token and threw it out. Instantly, the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues around the guarded ground emitted white light. They turned into a parabola and swept towards the center. Finally, the white light gathered in the center of the guarded ground and formed a white spiral vortex. The spiral vortex spun at an extremely fast speed and quickly spread out, forming a large circular hole. The 12 of you can go in, Wu Wuxian said calmly. As soon as Wu Wuxian finished speaking, Wu Xingyuan stomped his right foot and rushed into the circular hole. Then, Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin followed closely behind. Seeing the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe enter the hole without hesitation, Wu Qiutong and the other geniuses did not hesitate and rushed into the hole as well. Jingshan glanced at Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign indifferently. She was too lazy to say anything and followed closely behind the crowd. Chapter 33:57. Restriction. High Priest, are you really going to let Zi Xing enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond? Corpse Ian Marsh said unhappily as he watched Zi Xing disappear into the hole. Wu Wuxian glanced at Corpse in Marsh and said, "Don't worry, I'm not interested in Zixing. After the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond is over, I won't care what you do to him, as long as you don't attack him openly in Sorcerer God City. However, correspondingly, I must take the majority of the items in the Dragon Spiritual Ring." Corpse in Marsh and the others looked at each other and nodded in agreement. They also knew that only Wu Wuxian could unlock the restriction on the ring. Moreover, they were in the Sorcerer Tribe's territory. If they objected, they might not be able to bear the consequences. After Myrtle Star Lord entered the hole, he sensed that the hole had closed the moment he entered. He landed on the ground and realized that he was in a valley. The valley was huge and spanned tens of thousands of miles. It was an unprecedentedly huge valley. In the middle of the valley, there was an extremely large pool of water. This pool of water looked turbid and unclear, as if it was churning in chaos. However, the moment Wu Xingyuan and the others saw the pool water, their eyes lit up. The energy in the pool water was too rich. It did not seem like the energy of the heavenly path. It was more like another type of energy of a higher level. Above the pool, white, vein-like lines floated in the air, directly connecting to the distant sky above the valley. It was as if these lines had become a medium, transmitting some kind of powerful energy from the sky into the pool water. "Those are the corpses of the ancestral sorcerer?" Feng Bumming raised his head, his eyes full of shock as he looked at the end of the lines that were derived from the pool water. 3 incomparably huge corpses, which seemed to cover the sky and the sun, were quietly suspended high in the sky. "Yes, this is the foundation of our sorcerer tribe. 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses. These 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses are Xianming, Rushu, and Changliang. This pool water is a baptismal pool formed by the power of the ancestral sorcerer. We only have 10 days to be baptized in this baptismal pool. You'd better not miss this great opportunity." Wu Shiran proudly introduced the baptism pool in front of him, his voice filled with pride. Wu Xingyuan didn't say a word, and his gaze was cold and indifferent. He took a step into the baptism pool and started to circulate his cultivation technique. He relied on the energy of the ancestral shaman to start baptizing the blood, tendons, and bones in his body. When the others saw Wu Xingyuan taking the lead, they all jumped into the baptismal pool one after another. They only had 10 days of time within the ancestral shaman miraculous pond. In other words, they only had 10 days of time to undergo the baptism, and they couldn't waste it. Especially after entering the baptism pool, the rich energy surged towards them from all directions, making them feel comfortable and refreshed from head to toe. All the geniuses who had entered the pool were pleasantly surprised. In fact, there were even some geniuses who felt that their bottleneck had loosened during the process of the baptism, so they hurriedly began cultivating, hoping to make a breakthrough with the help of the baptism. Crate Myrtle Star was still the last to enter the baptismal pool, but he was quickly stopped. "Sai, you don't have a right to enter the baptismal pool." The ones who stopped Ziwei Star Sovereign were Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin. The two of them looked at Ziwei Star Sovereign mockingly. Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin's actions immediately attracted the attention of the other geniuses in the baptismal pool. Feng Bumming's lips curled into a hideous grin. Then he burst into unbridled laughter filled with mockery. Tu Qian of the Moon Wolf Clan, Wu Qiutong of the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan, and the other geniuses remained silent and watched coldly from the sidelines. "Boring." Wu Xingyuan glanced at him indifferently and didn't care much. Instead, he closed his eyes again. He knew why Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin were targeting Ziwei Star Sovereign. It was all because of Wu Wuxian's orders. Although Wu Wuxian had promised Zhuowen to allow Ziwei Star to enter the ancestral shaman miraculous pond, he had secretly ordered Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin to stop Ziwei Star from undergoing the baptism. If necessary, it would not be impossible to directly destroy this purple star. Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin were sure that Ziwei Star would be enraged. When that happened, they would have a reason to eliminate Ziwei Star in one fell swoop. Z-Way Star Sovereign's eyes were cold. Just as he was about to make a move, his expression changed and he held himself back. He retreated a few dozen steps from the baptismal pool and sat on a large rock. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged. Coward! Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin sneered and withdrew their attacks. They knew that there would be plenty of opportunities to deal with Z-Way Star Sovereign. There was no reason for them to make a move now. They focused on absorbing the energy of the baptismal pool. As expected of Longwind's friend, you really have guts. If you can swallow this, there will be nothing you can't swallow in the future. Ha! Feng Bumming laughed loudly. Tu Qian, Wu Qiutong, and the others secretly shook their heads and ignored Z-Way Star Sovereign. It was a waste of time for them to care about such a coward. Z-Way Star Sovereign's eyes were as calm as water. He seemed to be meditating, but in fact, he was communicating with Zhuowen through divine thought. Brother Zhuo, why did you stop me just now? If I were to make a move, other than Wu Xingyuan, no one else would be a match for me. Z-Way Star Sovereign said, with some dissatisfaction. Just now, when Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin were provoking him, Z-Way Star Sovereign wanted to make a move. However, he was stopped by Zhuowen, which made Z-Way Star Sovereign feel unbalanced. Brother Z-Way, we have time to deal with these people, but we came here to do business. I need to get close to the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses. If I'm not wrong, the 3 corpses should be surrounded by powerful restriction formations set up by Wu Wuxian. I need time to break the formation. It's unwise to start a conflict with these geniuses now. After I break the restriction formations around the ancestral sorcerer corpses and find what I need, it'll be time for us to make a move. In the macro world, Zhuowen sat cross-legged in the pavilion of the island in the lake and calmly communicated with Z-Way Star Sovereign through divine thought. Z-Way Star Sovereign could only nod and agree. He said through divine thought, "In that case, I'll bear with it for a while. You go and check the ancestral sorcerer corpses." As soon as Z-Way Star Sovereign finished speaking, a speck of dust on his shoulder gradually floated up in the anti-gravity state and slowly approached the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses above the baptismal pool. Wu Xingyuan slowly opened his eyes and looked blankly at the sky above the baptismal pool that was covered with lines. For a moment, he actually felt a wave of fluctuation above the baptismal pool. Although the fluctuation was very weak, he was still keenly aware of it. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's laughter naturally alerted the other 11 geniuses in the baptismal pool. Was Star Sovereign, Star Wu, Wu translation Wu, and Purple Star translation Star translation and translation what? Now, he actually dared to laugh out loud. Was he intentionally trying to disturb them? Translation. Star was translation to be. I wanted to let you go, but you disturbed my cultivation. You deserve to die. Go to hell. Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin jumped out of the baptismal pool at the same time. They rushed towards the Star Sovereign like 2 bolts of lightning. Terrifying gales swept out. The surrounding time and space seemed to flow in reverse. Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin were very strong. They were both at the early stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. When they joined forces, they could fight against an expert at the intermediate stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. Wu Qiudong and the others looked at Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin in surprise. They felt that the 2 of them were making a big fuss. They were too cautious. The Star Sovereign snorted. He stomped his right foot and punched at Wu Xiaoran. He did not care about Wu Wenbin behind him. This idiot is trying to hit a rock with an egg. Wu Wenbin could not help but laugh when he saw the Star Sovereign attack Wu Xiaoran. He had given up defending himself. But soon, Wu Wenbin felt that something was wrong. When his attack neared Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch, a very bad feeling rose in his heart. He actually sensed an extremely terrifying energy behind Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch approaching him. Suddenly, a spiral vortex appeared on the crepe Myrtle Star Lord's shoulder. A powerful fist energy blasted out from the vortex. The moment the fist and palm collided, Wu Wenbin felt that he was as small as an ant in front of the fist force. Then his right fist exploded into a bloody mist. Wu Wenbin screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He flew back with his broken right arm. The moment he flew back, Wu Wenbin saw the fist force in the vortex disappear. A figure walked out. He was too familiar with this figure. It was Long One, who had been captured by their high priest. But how was this possible? How was this guy still alive? Right when Wu Wenbin's thoughts were running wild, Long One stomped his right foot and vanished on the spot as if he'd teleported. When Long One appeared again, he was already very close to him. So fast. Just as Wu Wenbin thought of these two words, Zhuowen's terrifying fist force blasted out again. It turned into a dense barrage of fist shadows in the air, all of which bombarded Wu Wenbin's body. Puff, 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 puff. The terrifying fist shadows landed on Wu Wenbin's body. Puffs of bloody mist burst out. It looked miserable and ferocious. Wu Wenbin's consciousness was blurred. The pain in his body was numb. When he forced his eyes open, a huge fist became bigger and bigger in his eyes. Finally, it blasted between his eyebrows. Intense pain assaulted him. Then, Wu Wenbin's vision turned completely dark. Puff! Wu Wenbin was almost instantly killed. He fell to the ground, and his divine soul was destroyed. Not long after Wu Wenbin was killed, Wu Xiuran also screamed. His body was torn in half by the Star Sovereign. His divine soul was destroyed, and his corpse was badly damaged. The moment Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin were killed, all the geniuses in the baptismal pool opened their eyes. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin had just made a move, and they were killed in an instant. This purple star sovereign was too terrifying. But soon, they saw another figure beside Wu Wenbin's body. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This was because they were not unfamiliar with this figure. Instead, they were all too familiar with it. This was because he was Long One, who was captured by the sorcerer tribe. This. What's going on? Could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me? Why would this dragon text appear here? Feng Bumming rubbed his eyes hard. The moment he opened his eyes, his neck was grabbed tightly by a big hand. Then he was lifted out of the baptismal pool. His feet were suspended in the air, and he kept swinging. Now, come closer and take a closer look. See if you're seeing things. Zhuan lifted Feng Bumming. His tone was as calm as water. But in Feng Bumming's ears, it was so cold that he trembled. It's really you, Longwen? Feng Bumming's eyes widened, and his voice was sharp. Feng Bumming, I have another surprise for you. My original name is not Long One, but Zhuowen. Zhuowen suddenly sent a message to Feng Bumming with a smile. Feng Bumming's body trembled. He stared at Zhuowen and blurted out, "You're Zhuo?" Chapter 33:59. Clean and tidy. Bang! Zhuowen casually threw Feng Bumming's body aside and looked disdainfully at the rest of the geniuses in the baptismal pool. Standing beside Zhuowen, Crepe Star Lord looked coldly at the geniuses who had mocked him. His gaze was as cold as frost, making the geniuses feel uneasy. Wu Qiutong, Tu Qian, and the rest of the geniuses were dumbfounded. They looked at Zhuowen with their mouths slightly agape. They could not believe that Zhuowen had sneaked into the ancestral sorcerer magical pond. Wasn't he captured by the high priest Wu Wuxian? Jingshan, who was in the baptismal pool, looked at Zhuowen with surprise. She did not expect Zhuowen to enter the ancestral sorcerer magical pond. What an incredible guy. Wu Xingyan slowly stood up from the baptismal pool. His calm gaze was filled with frost. The killing intent was like a mighty pressure spreading out with a rumble, instantly filling the entire valley. Long One, how dare you kill the geniuses of the sorcerer tribe? Wu Xingyuan was furious. His voice fluctuated and was extremely stern. An extremely vast and terrifying aura surged out of Wu Xingyuan's body. The entire baptismal pool began to boil. Countless turbid liquids surged out like angry dragons, spreading in all directions. Wu Xingyuan was in the middle of the berserk liquid. His long hair fluttered like a peerless demon god. Wu Xingyuan has released his killing intent. Longwen is in trouble. Tu Qian from the Moon Wolf clan hid to the side and looked at Wu Xingyuan solemnly. He originally thought that the gap between him and Wu Xingyuan was not too big, so he had always regarded Wu Xingyuan as a competitor. But now, after Wu Xingyuan released all his aura, he realized that he was too naive. There was no doubt that Wu Xingyuan was terrifying. He was much stronger than he had expected. Just the aura alone made Tu Qian feel that Wu Xingyuan was unreachable and terrifying. Tu Qian knew that if he were to fight with Wu Xingyuan now, he would definitely be defeated. As for that long one, he admitted that although his strength was not bad, but at most it was on par with him. He naturally did not think that long one would be a match for this Wu Xingyuan. Brother Zhua, let me deal with this Wu Xingyuan. Purple Star Sovereign took the lead and stood in front of Zhuowen, intending to fight Wu Xingyuan. Brother Ziwei, I'll have to trouble you then. I still need to settle some old scores with a few people. Hold off Wu Xingyuan for a while. Zhuowen nodded, his gaze falling on Hu Teng and Long Hui. Back then, there were a total of 5 races that had ambushed him and slandered him. They were the Ghoul race, the Phoenix people, the Dragon race, the Black Tiger race, and the Merfolk race. Sure Fu from the Corpse race and Foam Bumming from the Phoenix people had already been killed by him. Meanwhile, the Genius from the Merman race had been eliminated by Jing Shan and was not qualified to enter the Ancestral Sorcerer's magical pond. Only Hu Teng of the Black Tiger clan and Long Hui of the Dragon clan were left on the baptismal pool. From the moment Zhuowen entered the Ancestral Sorcerer's magical pond, he had no intention of letting these 2 people go. Hu Teng and Long Hui naturally felt Zhuowen's unfriendly gaze. Both of them immediately put on alert and stared at Zhuowen. The scene of Zhuo when domineeringly annihilating Wu Wenbin earlier was still vivid in their minds even now. Their strength was on par with Wu Wenbin. Since Long Wen could easily kill Wu Wenbin, it was naturally more than enough to deal with the 2 of them. Bang! At this moment, Wu Xingyuan and Purple Star Sovereign clashed violently. Terrifying energy ripples burst out, giving rise to a blazing and glaring light that spread in all directions. Thump! 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 Both Wu Xingyuan and Purple Star Sovereign retreated dozens of steps. However, Wu Xingyuan was obviously at a disadvantage. His face was pale. Wu Xingyuan was shocked. He stared at Purple Star Sovereign and said in a deep voice, "Your cultivation is actually at the late stage of the sky, piercing master?" All the geniuses in the baptismal pool were shocked. They couldn't believe Wu Xingyuan's words. A mere disciple of a small clan, Purple Star, was actually at the late stage of the sky piercing master. This was equivalent to the strength of their respective clan leaders. How is this possible? When Wu Xingyuan was at a disadvantage just now, they naturally saw it with their own eyes. Wu Xingyuan was a mid-stage sky piercing master expert. His strength was much stronger than the average mid-stage sky piercing master expert. Only a late-stage sky piercing master expert could suppress him. Since Purple Star could make Wu Xingyuan fall into a disadvantage, it was obvious that he was a late-stage sky piercing master expert. Long Hui and Hu Teng were dumbstruck. They were truly terrified. With Long Wen's strength and Purple Star's late-stage sky piercing master expert, they were going to crush all the geniuses present. Come out and die. Zhuowen stood at the edge of the baptismal pool, looking at Long Hui and Hu Teng. Long Hui and Hu Teng looked at each other. They could see that Long Wen wanted to kill them, so they could only fight with their lives on the line. In any case, they were both early-stage sky piercing master experts. When they joined forces, their strength was not bad. Long Wen might not be a match for the 2 of them. "You die for me." Hu Teng and Long Hui rushed out, splitting into 2 directions and flanked Zhuowen. One in front and one behind, they cooperated well. Long Huey's entire body emitted a blazing light, and a powerful and terrifying dragon shadow appeared around him. It was as if he was a giant dragon that had existed since ancient times. Hu Tong was enveloped by a huge tiger shadow, like a huge tiger coming down the mountain to hunt. The tiger's roar shook the sky, and the wind was bitingly cold. A dragon and a tiger, intertwined with each other, with the power to destroy heaven and earth. They quickly surrounded Zhuowen and slammed into each other. Instantly, it was as if a dragon and a tiger were fighting. A terrifying explosion erupted in the surroundings, and Zhuowen was at the center of the explosion. The power was vast and mighty, completely drowning Zhuowen. This kid is dead for sure. In the midst of Long Hu's explosion, Hu Tong and Long Hui looked at each other and smiled. Under their combined attacks, they didn't think that Long Wen could survive. So, this is your final attack? You can't even withstand a single blow. An indifferent voice rang out from the center of the explosion. Then, a figure slowly walked out. Hu Tong and Long Hui sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw the figure. The figure was none other than Zhuowen. The mysterious light of creation circulated around Zhuowen's body, resisting the terrifying explosion around him. His body was unscathed, and there was not a speck of dust on him. Retreat. Hu Tong and Long Hui knew that things were not going well. They quickly retreated, wanting to get away from Zhuowen. Unfortunately, how could Zhuowen let them do as they wished? Zhuowen clenched his hands and used the sky-splitting blade ultimacy. A dazzling white blade shadow appeared in each of his hands. Whoosh! Chapter 3360. Escape Pucci. Hu Tong and Long Hui were directly penetrated and nailed to the ground. They struggled, but could not break free. Ever since he advanced a half-step 8-star, the might of Zhuowen's sky-opening blade had once again risen by a level. Wanting to block this sky-opening blade with just Hu Tong and Long Hui was simply wishful thinking. Zhuowen slowly came in front of Hu Tong and Long Hui and looked down at them indifferently. Long One, we have a dragon race and black tiger race behind us. If you don't want to die, it's best not to offend us. Don't kill us, or you will regret it. Long Hui shouted. He smelled the scent of death. You want me to regret it? With the dragon race and black tiger race behind you? I even killed Shifu of the corpse race and foam bumming of the phoenix people. 2 more of you won't make much of a difference. Die for me. Zhuowen sneered again and again. His hands formed sword fingers and quickly pointed at Long Hui and Hu Tong's forehead. Pucci. Long Hui and Hu Tong's forehead exploded with bloody holes. Then their vitality completely dissipated into nothingness. After Zhuowen killed Long Hui and Hu Tong, he noticed that the battle between the Purple Star Sovereign and Wu Xingyuan had reached its climax. Although Wu Xingyuan had been at a disadvantage in the beginning of the battle with Crepe Myrtle Starlord, he had been at a disadvantage. But later, Wu Xingyuan unleashed the power of an 8-star wizard body. Coupled with the cultivation of a mid-stage Tongtian Lord, his strength actually rose by a large margin. He was actually evenly matched with an expert like Crepe Myrtle Star. It was precisely because the battle between Wu Xingyuan and the Purple Star Sovereign was too earth-shattering. The attention of the other geniuses was all attracted by the battle between the two and ignored Zhuowen. As a result, they did not notice that Zhuowen had killed Hu Tong and Long Hui. This Wu Xingyuan is really extraordinary. He is actually evenly matched with Brother Purple Star. Zhuowen's eyes were grave. He knew how powerful the Purple Star Sovereign was. Although Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign had just advanced to the late stage of the sky-reaching Master Realm, he had obtained the inheritance of the Undying Bird. His battle prowess was earth-shattering. Back then, the Phoenix Master of the Phoenix People, Feng Law, a veteran late-stage Heaven Ascension Master, was only able to suppress the Purple Star Sovereign. It was simply impossible for her to kill him. However, Wu Xingyuan was only a middle-stage Master of Heaven, yet he was evenly matched with Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch. From this, one could see how powerful Wu Xingyuan was. Zhuowen knew that with Wu Xingyuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch's condition, it would be impossible to determine the victor if they continued to fight. Zhuowen took out the Ho-E Divine Arrow and Ho-E Divine Bow. He knocked the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring to 3/4 of an arc rumble. A thunderous sound exploded in the air. The Ho-E Godly Arrow and Ho-E Godly Bow suddenly exploded with a terrifying sound, bringing with them shocking killing intent. This killing intent was too terrifying. Like a tide, it instantly flooded the entire valley. The other geniuses who were originally focused on the battle between Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch and Wu Xingyuan all sensed this killing intent. Their gazes fell on the Ho-E Godly Arrow and Ho-E Godly Bow in Zhuowen's hands. That's the Ho-E Godly Arrow. Long One actually has such a treasure. Wu Qiutong blurted out when she recognized the Ho-E Godly Arrow. This guy doesn't just have the Ho-E Godly Arrow, he also has the Ho-E Godly Bow. This guy's luck is too great. He actually has the complete divine artifact of the most powerful Wu Hui. It's extremely powerful. He's going to support Purple Star. Tu Qian of the Moon Wolf clan said with a grave expression. The remaining space-time Beast clans Xiu Kong and Giant Turtle clan Xiang Gui didn't dare to speak at all. They looked at Zhuowen with fear. This was because not only did they notice the Ho-E Godly Bow and Ho-E Godly Arrow in Zhuowen's hands, but they also noticed the dead bodies of Long Hui and Huting not far from Zhuowen's feet. It hadn't been long, but Long One had already killed Long Hui and Hutung. This was too efficient. Wu Xingyuan, who was fighting with Purple Star Monarch, also felt the terrifying killing intent. This murderous intent was like a tidal wave, sweeping over from all directions, drowning his entire being, as if it had blocked all his escape routes. The pressure was so strong that Wu Xingyuan immediately began to retreat. Unfortunately, Purple Star Monarch wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He suddenly stepped forward and entangled Wu Xingyuan, making Wu Xingyuan an obedient target for Zhuowen. Whoosh! The moment Wu Xingyuan was entangled by Purple Star Monarch, a terrifying air-piercing sound instantly resounded. Then, Zhuowen released the bowstring, and the Ho-E Godly Arrow pierced through the sky, instantly arriving in front of Wu Xingyuan with unparalleled killing intent. Wu Xingyuan suddenly shouted, clenching his right hand into a fist and punching out. The air exploded, and a powerful airflow, accompanied by energy, formed an extremely terrifying phantom behind him. This illusory figure was the illusory figure of a giant. It was at least 10,000 zhang tall, and it shook the heavens and earth. The terrifying pressure formed a terrifying storm that crushed down on the entire valley. Boom! The moment the fist collided with the Ho-E Godly Arrow, an extremely terrifying explosion erupted. Pucci! Unfortunately, the Ho-E Godly Arrow was too terrifying, and it tore apart the giant phantom behind Wu Xingyuan. Moreover, the Godly Arrow pierced through Wu Xingyuan's right arm in a spurt of energy, causing his right arm to explode into a cloud of blood mist that was annihilated in the void. Wu Xingyuan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was unbelievably pale. Purple Star Monarch took advantage of this opportunity to instantly approach Wu Xingyuan. Clenching his right fist, he ruthlessly punched Wu Xingyuan's chest. Wu Xingyuan raised his other arm, as if he was about to block Purple Star Monarch's attack. Unfortunately, he was too hasty, so his left arm was fractured, and he rapidly fell down like a meteor. Long One, I will remember you. I, Wu Xingyuan, swear that I will not rest until you are dead. The moment Wu Xingyuan fell into the ground, he took out a golden talisman and crushed it. With a whoosh, the moment the talisman was crushed, Wu Xingyuan instantly disappeared from the valley. It's an escape talisman, and an extremely advanced one. Purple Star Monarch landed at the place where Wu Xingyuan fell, and his eyes were solemn as he spoke to Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded and put away the Ho-E Godly Bow and ho, ye godly arrow. Wu Xingyuan deserved to be called the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe. He was so powerful that even Purple Star Monarch could not take him down. In the end, he and Purple Star Monarch joined forces to severely injure him. This made Zhuowen think highly of Wu Xingyuan. The world of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond is self-contained and isolated from the outside world. No matter how powerful Wu Xingyuan's escape talisman is, it is impossible for him to directly tear apart this small world and leave here to reach the outside world. Wu Xingyuan should be hiding somewhere in this small world. Should we go and search for him? Purple Star Monarch looked at Zhuowen and asked in a deep voice. No need. I still have important business to attend to. Wu Xingyuan will eventually come across us. When that time comes, I will kill him. Zhuowen shook his head and said, it was simply unreasonable. Tu Qian and the others were also shocked. They retracted their divine sense one after another. They knew that their divine sense had been discovered. If they continued to recklessly investigate, they would only make Long when unhappy. Time passed slowly. 2 days later, Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes. The beast bone array disc that was hovering above him turned into a huge, impactful whirlpool and violently blasted on the restriction on the surface of the 3 ancestral shaman corpses. The restriction looked like fish scales. It actually formed layers upon layers of fragments that gave off dense light spots. It looked extremely gorgeous and dazzling in the air. Boom, boom, boom. In the end, the restriction on the surface of the 3 ancestral shaman corpses collapsed and were annihilated into nothingness. The huge explosion caused by the collapse sent Zhuowen flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was extremely pale. Fortunately, Zhuowen had set up a defensive formation around him in advance. It blocked the impact caused by the explosion of the restriction. Otherwise, Zhuowen would be even more miserable than he was now. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Zhuowen looked at the 3 ancestral shaman corpses that appeared in front of him with bright eyes.